The Zone is presented by Guaranteed Foods, delivering all natural food to Midwestern families since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, a Friday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. We head up until 2 o'clock. The next 4 hours, we've got you. This is going to be a packed show today. Coming up later on this hour, Lee Sterling, Paramount Sports, will get you set for the weekend of football as some big college football games ahead of us for tomorrow. And then Chiefs and Eagles coming up on Monday night after last night's Thursday night game getting Week 11 underway. So we will hear from Lee Sterling later on this hour. Matt Derrick will talk with him on the phone today at 11 o'clock because at 11:45 we will hear from the Kansas City Chiefs in a press conference. Typically a Friday is a Fast Friday with Andy Reid at 1 o'clock, but today is a Thursday for the Chiefs. They get set for that Monday night game, so we'll hear from coordinators and assistant coaches today. We'll see if any players will be at the podium today, but we'll hear from assistant coaches and some coordinators. And then Mick Schaefer will join us in the 1 o'clock hour. We'll get the cuts before the show is over as well. 913-912-4810 is the text line, 913-912-4810, the text line. Let's get into the show. Josh, I want to start with you. Break down the Mizzou comeback last night, down by 20. What did you see? How do you think it happened? What took place? And if there's particular players that you thought really stood out in that final 11 and a half minutes.
I started drinking heavily when Mark Andrews got hurt, and sense. I blacked out about the time that Joe Burrow got hurt. So that's where I was at last night.
Absolutely. Missouri blacked out for a good portion of the second half, and then they blacked out for the last 11 and a half minutes by going on a 31-9 run and an initial 10-2 run by Nick Honor. That game was all but over. They were toast. They were done. And then after the game, Dennis Gates saying, we took a lot from the Memphis game because they were up by like 15 and then they were down by 15 against Memphis. It was like a 40-10 run. It was embarrassing the way they were playing. And one of the things Dennis Gates said last night was they lost that game and they took some lessons away from that. And it's obvious they took some lessons away from that because of how they played in the second half and not quitting, not giving up, continuing to fight, and playing some pretty damn good lockdown defense, and they end up coming back. They, final 11 and a half minutes of that game, they go 11 of 20 from the field, 3 of 6 from 3, 6 of 8 from the free throw line, but more importantly, Minnesota's 3 of 12 from the field, 0 of 4 from 3. They turn the ball over 6 times in that stretch, and the final 6 minutes of the game, Minnesota doesn't score from the field. They make 3 free throws. That's it. And there's a lot to take away from this game. Caleb Grill getting ejected. Dennis Gates trying to find the rotation. They've got so many new guys. And Vanover gets inserted into the game last night for the first time this year. All 7'5" and 250 pounds, whatever he is. 7'5" skinny guy, still like 260. I always joke like, Will Purdue weighs 270 pounds. No, he doesn't. Actually, look at him. It's ridiculous. He's like 7'2". But you have so many different guys getting mixed in. Tanjay starts for the first time, I believe the first time last night. So trying to
Vanover is listed at 7'5", 230.
7'5", 230, yeah. Yeah, that is actually kind of skinny.
I mean,
for 230 for 7'5".
For 7'5"?
Yeah, 7'5", you'd be like, you probably need to be about 250, 260. Mizzou's got a top 50 player coming in next year that's 7 foot 260.
The Western Kentucky guy or something we talked.
No, that dude ended up. That was a transfer. This is a true freshman that's coming in next year with their number 3 recruiting class with their 5 top 100 players that they've got coming in. One of those at the top 50 players like 7 foot 260. That makes a little more sense than 7'5", 230. But you're integrating him to the lineup and trying to figure out what you have in him. And one of the takeaways that I had last night was watching the comeback in that from 11:30 to the end of the game, the final 11 and a half minutes of that game, 8 players saw the floor from Mizzou. Noah Carter, Sean East, and Nick Honor played the most. Noah Carter and Sean East played every second of the final 11 and a half minutes. Nick Honor sat for like 3 minutes in that. But then you had true freshman Trent Pierce play over 8 minutes of the final 11 and a half. You had true freshman Anthony Robinson play a good portion from the 8-minute mark to the 3-minute mark. You had newcomer Kurt Lewis, the JUCO and EKU player, that played the final 7.5 minutes of the game. So you end the game with 3 graduate seniors, not grad transfers, but Noah Carter, Sean East, Nick Honor, a JUCO / smaller Division I player at Eastern Kentucky, and then Tamar Bates, the transfer from Indiana. But Aiden Shaw played 4 minutes of that final stretch. I mentioned true freshman Anthony Robinson, true freshman Trent Pierce. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of those 8 guys that played the last 11.5 minutes are newcomers on the team. 2 of them true freshmen. That to me is one of the big takeaways, is finding the right rotation, finding guys you can trust in the game, and the fact that Kurt Lewis, a guy that doesn't play much, he had him out there the final 8 minutes of the game. You're making that comeback. He was moving some guys in and out, but that guy stayed in the game along with Noah Carter and Sean East. I thought that was pretty significant, something moving forward. And, Trent Pierce, true freshman, hitting a 3 in transition. Anthony Robinson stepping up, getting an assist, a steal, a couple of rebounds. So that's one of my bigger takeaways, is those 3 new guys, Pierce, Robinson, and Lewis. Not Tamar Bates, because Tamar Bates was more of a higher touted transfer from Indiana. But you got a JUCO guy and 2 true freshmen that the final 11 minutes of that game playing, different stretches combined for 11 points, 3 rebounds, a couple of steals, and an assist. That's some pretty good production. And the defense that they were playing, they turned Minnesota over 6 times in that stretch and getting buckets and breakaways. And they were just the more in shape team. They were the tougher team, more physical down the stretch. And they found a way to win. It was an absolutely improbable win for Mizzou, and they still won on the road. You take that, you feel good about it, you move forward and see what happens over the next couple months, and you start to continue to figure some things out. But that's a lot of confidence for a couple of true freshmen that are in there, in Pierce and Anthony Robinson. You win a game while trying to figure some things out, and then Dennis Gates says they really played this way because of that Memphis loss. And also credited Caleb Grill getting ejected from the game, getting a technical, then making contact with an official. He probably won't play against, Jacksonville State. He probably won't play that game. Maybe he won't play the next game either. You make contact with an official. It's not just a, hey, go to the showers. But Dennis Gates saying that actually fired him up, that passion from Caleb Grill got him rolling, got him back in the game. And, of course, it helps when Nick Honor goes on a quick 10-2 run on his own, a couple of threes, a couple of layups, and next thing you know, it's like, wait a minute, you were down 20, now you're down 8, you were just down 10. Oh, wait, now you're down 9? There's still 7 minutes to play and you're only down 9? All right, this is a game now.
Especially when you mentioned, for the team being able to build off the Memphis loss, it felt like, listen, I've talked about how the different fan bases react to different forms of sports torture, and Missouri fans have a really specific mechanism of self-protection, which is, it's happening again, I'm just going to accept it. This is just, our fate is our fate, and we're going to survive this however we survive this. But after that Memphis game, man, it got kind of dark a little bit. It was like, all smoke and mirrors. This program hasn't taken a single step forward. Who's going to be the coach in 3 years? It wasn't that bad. But, there really was a feeling of that's kind of disappointing. A little deflating out of the gate. And then last night, the air zaps right back into the program. And Tigers fan, I see Curtis over there smiling. He's just smiling today.
It's weird.
Yeah, it is strange. He's usually such an angry fella.
It's also it's also a sort of a weird feeling that the Memphis loss happened. And I'm like, they got Tennessee in football tomorrow.
See, right. That's a good point.
And then watching the game last night, they're down by 20, and it's a difference between football and basketball. And I'm going, well, they're still trying to figure some things out. I mean, they don't really have a whole lot of dynamism on the wing. They've got to figure out how they can get that. Sean East is really the guy that can kind of create. Nick Honor is not that guy that's going to create offense. They've got to figure those things out. But they've got so many newcomers that it's going to take a while to get guys rolling. And, come conference play, win enough games in non-conference, win games in conference, get to the tournament. But along the way, you're trying to figure out what you have. That's the difference in basketball and football. But, watching the game last night, knowing that Missouri is the number 9 team in the country in football and wins the next couple of games they're playing in a New Year's Six Bowl. A little different way of appreciating things. Same thing with KU basketball when it's like KU going on this year. It's like, wow, basketball kind of snuck up on you. Hey, they're number 1 in the land. until that UK game on Tuesday night. Then it was like, all right,
Kansas is playing.
Absolutely. There was a football game last night,
Barely.
and the Ravens knock off the Bengals, but boy, there's some Pyrrhic victories going on around
I
the
learned
NFL.
the term Pyrrhic victory last night during this game. I was
really?
ready to use it today. Absolutely.
No
I
kidding?
did not know that term.
Oh, that's awesome. That's cool.
I was ready. Somebody tweeted, I was like, what's a Pyrrhic victory? Is it like a victory at great cost? And I Googled, it's like a victory at great cost.
Yeah, you win the battle, but it may cost you the war by winning the battle. It's like, good victory, man, but you've destroyed your entire army by winning that one battle. You might as well surrender now because the war is essentially over. Not necessarily the case for the Ravens, but Mark Andrews out for the season. If you have not seen the updates, it isn't official yet, but when John Harbaugh after the game says he believes it to be a season-ending ankle injury, before they even get an MRI or whatever, when you hear that, you're pretty sure it's a severe ankle injury, whatever took place. He walked off the field and they were like, well, maybe it's not as bad as it first indicated. But then when they showed him in the tunnel starting to walk up the stairs, and you could tell that thing he wasn't returning anytime soon. It's not the same as, it's more severe than what Patrick Mahomes went through when Mahomes was able to return to the game and then play the next week and then play in the Super Bowl. Mark Andrews looks like he's out for the season, which certainly takes the Ravens down a notch.
Yeah.
He's so good, and he was so good on that opening drive as well. I don't know what's going on with Odell Beckham Jr.'s shoulder. It can't be that serious. He was on the set with Amazon after the game was over, so it wasn't exactly like he was, having a cast put on or anything, or having his arm in a sling because he broke his collarbone or anything like that. It was just a shoulder injury that he didn't return to the game. They've got that running game. Lamar Jackson with the ankle injury slowed him down a little bit. That's the concern with the Ravens, is that now they don't have Mark Andrews the rest of the year, more than likely. That you start to get Lamar Jackson banged up just a little bit and you limit that. It's one of the reasons why I would rather play the Ravens in the postseason than even the Bengals or even the Bills, because of someone that can put the team on their back for a couple of games like a Burrow or Josh Allen. Lamar Jackson can do that. But I don't know how healthy he'll be at the end of the season. I don't know how fast he'll be. I know he ain't as fast now that he was a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. That's obvious. Mm-hmm. So when he's getting out and running, he's being caught a little more. A few years ago, 2019, he was gone.
Running draws with him 2 drives after he is visibly injured is also a heck of a choice.
Not smart.
I digress.
Not smart. And the Bengals may just simply be done.
Yeah.
If Joe Burrow misses a couple of games, well, then good luck. Because they're already 5-5. They're already on the outside looking in. They are plus 1,700 to win the division. I wouldn't put money on that, even though
it looked like the best bet in football about a week after the fact once they started putting things together.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, if they can get some things rolling, then maybe this is a team that you might get some good value there. But there's some real issues in Cincinnati, and I don't know when we'll find out what's going on with Joe Burrow's wrist. But when he threw that ball to Joe Mixon, something was wrong. And then did you see the close-up shot of his hand coming off the field?
Yes.
It looked like he had a hand-size soccer goalie glove.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, is it Chef Boyardee that has the glove or whatever?
Hamburger helper.
Hamburger
helper.
That's
glove.
what it looked. It was so swollen.
Yeah.
It was so swollen that it looked like it was a hamburger. Like it was like a balloon on his wrist. Heading into his fingers, his phalanges, and you see that and you're like, he ain't returning anytime soon.
It was like you blow up a like a latex glove. You ever blow air into one of those? Like, the fingers are definitely a little small. Why is the hand so rotund?
Bengals dropped to 28.2% to make the playoffs, according to FPI,
and that's with no knowledge of Burrow one way or the other. I mean, if that's Jake Browning, I wonder what the percentage is. It's brutal. Dylan also had made a point. I was talking before the show about the Burrow thing with them, and Dylan, you should just share your. It's not even a conspiracy theory; it's just something to keep an eye on, because the weird thing from Burrow was, it was the little brace off the bus. It was the being such a dramatic shift from making it work to all of a sudden grimacing in pain, just trying to release a football. Maybe the grip strength wasn't there. And I think there was a clip of him on the sideline appearing to mouth something about feeling a pop.
I think he said he wanted a pop.
I wanted to pop after I watched most of that game.
So I didn't see the swollen hand picture, which would discredit what I'm about to say. But when you have a UCL injury that can be so severe sometimes, it will travel to your wrist where you'll feel pain, a kind of sprain-ish feeling in your wrist, and also it's weak. The grip is very weak. And he was on the sideline, and a lip reader was saying that he's saying, like, I can't grip the ball right now. So I really hope it's not that. Because that game was awful after he left, and they are a very good team and fun to watch. So.
Well, it's weird if it's a wrist injury. Why can't he raise his arm and
That's
his
what
elbow?
I was also
Right.
He didn't.
Yeah.
He couldn't go 90 degrees, which is another.
Yeah,
sign.
they're like, he can't bring his arm up. As soon as he does, he starts to throw it, and it was almost like he felt his elbow and not really his wrist.
That's what that
So I thought
sideline shot.
I thought that at first, but I thought maybe if there's a wrist injury, it shot pain up his arm. You know, and it's like and just holding
true.
holding just your whatever this is called.
forearm
Thank
kinda,
you.
yeah.
Thank you very much. Holding just your forearm because your wrist hurts.
Yeah.
And you go and grab that. It's like, oh, wait, is he grabbing closer to his elbow or whatever? But yeah, everybody's trying to figure out what's going on. Even Zach Taylor, who was shocked that there was something going on with his wrist. Apparently, he was just, they said that was something because he just got through bowling. Yeah, it was the little bowling brace that the guys wear just so they can keep their wrists straight and everything.
You ever,
Maybe that's what Joe Burrow was doing.
Did you ever finally get allowed to try to skateboard as a child, but then you had to wear the elbow pads, the knee pads, and the wrist guards? So you are just like so protected. It's ridiculous. It's not cool to skate anymore because you're so protected. That's what it looked like to me.
It looked like a Christmas story with the
yes.
No, leave me come back.
It looked like one of those skate wrist protectors that probably would be smart, but I've never seen Tony Hawk wear one.
That's right. Now the NFL, the latest is about an hour ago it comes out, the NFL is investigating the Cincinnati Bengals as to if Joe Burrow should have been on the injury report, since the Bengals tweet out the video of him getting off the bus. And if there wasn't a big deal, then why would they delete it?
Yeah.
Why would the Bengals delete that video?
That's a good question.
If it's like, oh, that's not a big deal, like it's he does that every game or whatever. Zach Taylor can say, like, he fell and he sprained his wrist. Well, then what was? Oh, I don't know. I know as much as you guys do. I found out just a little bit that he wasn't returned. So from halftime to the end of the game to when you got to the podium, you have no idea about what happened with Joe Burrow at all. You didn't. I don't even care.
No further information.
No idea what he is. What is he important? I'm not really sure. Quarterback.
Do you mean Jake Browning? It's Jay Burr. Hey, you know what?
Yeah, we're going to rally around Kurt Warner. We're going to play good football. Okay, that's what we're going to do now moving forward. A few years ago, 2018 or 19, the Pittsburgh Steelers were fined like $100,000 or so because they did not put Ben Roethlisberger on the injury report, even though he was injured. And then in the game, re-aggravates whatever it was, and then the investigation found out that, actually he was injured that week. So they fined him. My question moving forward is going to be, if they find out that Joe Burrow was nursing a wrist injury, is it a $100,000 fine? Or is the NFL now in bed with DraftKings and gambling sites that, now this is a bigger deal, because raise your hand if you had a single game parlay that included Joe Burrow.
Right.
I did. I had two different ones. Only one of them had Mark Andrews.
Yeah. Yeah.
Both of them had Joe Burrow.
Yep.
So they were both toast. But I can tell you this. If Joe Burrow was limited in practice with a wrist injury, I would not have gone over the 240, passing yards. I wish I'd have gone under.
Right.
But the way the offense had been rolling, and by the way, until that happened, he was going to be on pace to, pass that number, or at least come close to it. That's an issue now moving forward, because if you're talking about Vegas and people not knowing if there's an injury or not, and this guy gets off the bus and that happens, and then, I should have been smart enough to, look at those things before, but, just having a little fun with the DraftKings and everything. Yep. The Mark Andrews, nothing you can do. Nothing you can do with the Mark Andrews. That happens in football. Maybe the hip drop tackle gets eventually eliminated from football. I think the Ravens may be on board with that now. Yep. Chiefs should be on board with that, certainly. Protecting any player, since, if they've got the better roster, then I'd rather less people get injured on the better roster. But the gambling side of this is going to be something to watch, because if they find out that through an investigation that there was something more going on and they didn't list him on the injury report, now that they've got all these, they are fully embracing the betting side and the sports gaming side. I wonder if there's a little bit more punitive damage than or penalty than $100,000 that they sent to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, and there are layers to this, and I'll kind of play both sides of it a little bit. But at one point last night, I tweeted that it's just kind of hilarious that the NFL has such incredibly punitive punishments for players gambling on anything from the facilities or certainly any NFL games, even ones not playing in. And I understand that. You need to have the appearance of integrity. But then you also have referees playing absolute Calvin ball, where if you've got a Zay Flowers fantasy matchup, anytime touchdown over, whatever.
Tired of the Bengals getting all the calls.
Seriously. Like, if the Ravens, it worked out just fine. The Ravens football team isn't going to care. They scored a touchdown later in that drive. But if you needed that Zay Flowers touchdown to win $100,000, all of a sudden that totally ticky-tack holding call has taken some integrity out of the game in your eyes. Then you have players showing up, and really it's the quarterback showing up with a thing on his wrist, and maybe it's a re-aggravated wrist injury, maybe it's a totally different thing that's totally unrelated. But if there's such a thing as integrity theater, that's what the NFL is about. It's we want to make you think that our product is just pure and everything's going according to plan. And injuries happen, but we're going to do everything in our power. And you can't actually ensure that when you have just as big a refereeing problem as anything. When the dudes in stripes are taking touchdowns off the board that should be there, I don't know that you can claim to have a product that actually has like competitive integrity. And then guys like Mitchell Schwartz and Jeff Schwartz last night were tweeting like, hey, to have the NFL, to have teams constantly updating the entire world on every player's every little bang up over the course of a season, even if they're full participants in practice, is unreasonable, was a word that Mitch used. And he's right. But people are going to expect unreasonable amounts of detail in this NFL. Totally respectfully, I think both of them are excellent. They're both talking about football when they were playing before, I kid you not, at one point, whenever the first score was after the Burrow injury, the field goal or extra point got kicked, and there's two sportsbook ads on either side of the goalpost on the screen. That's a different NFL.
That's
so
right.
The standards are going to change, and you can't predict injuries, but you cannot have it look like you're hiding something. That's the integrity theater thing.
Absolutely. I love the integrity theater. That's a great line. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, and we'll get into some MVPs of the first half of the season for the Chiefs and look at the offense and defense and the players that have been the biggest parts and most important players for this first half of the season. We'll hear from Lee Sterling, Matt Derrick, Chiefs press conferences with Spags, Tobe, Nagy, assistant coaches, Mick Schaefer, Cuts, all still to come here on this Friday edition of The Zone at Sports Radio 810 WHB. All right, we'll hear from Lee Sterling coming up in a little bit. We'll go through the Chiefs MVPs throughout the show today when we have a little time. You want to start with offense or defense with this? Let's start with the defense because that's been the most fun.
I think that's fun.
Or do you want to start with offense?
No, let's start with defense.
You look disappointed that you want to start offense or defense? Let's start with defense. Damn it.
I was just so shocked we were actually getting to them that I had to recalibrate.
Yeah.
I got to scroll down my Google Doc and keep scrolling and keep scrolling and keep. And we're back.
I wanted the purple stuff. Oh, man. You'll never get that
I
reference.
sure won't.
It's an old,
right.
It's an old TV commercial for Sunny D. They came in from playing sports or whatever, or no, it's a Dave Chappelle.
I was about to say it's a Chappelle.
It's a Chappelle skit off of a TV commercial for Sunny D. When they came in, they're like, "Oh, we got some water, we got some juice, we got some Sunny D. Oh, Sunny D!" And then Chappelle was a black kid with the white kids playing football. They come in and it's like, "All right, guys, we got some water, we got some purple stuff, we got some sun. Oh, Sunny D!" And he goes, I wanted the purple stuff. That's great. All right, so MVPs of the defense. Let's go 1 through 5. We can just do 1. We could do 1 through 3. But you know what? We're doing more. It's what it means more.
It just means more. And I think some of these, the top few aren't as intriguing as the 3rd, 4th, 5th places on some of these. So
do you want to go first with your number 1 or my number 1 or?
My number 1 is Christopher Jones.
Maybe I was just trying to be contrarian.
That's okay.
And I might have been caught up in the moment overall, but my number 1 is McDuffie.
Okay. How do we want to? How do we want to go about this? Because when we talk about where we're each is Chris Jones number 2 for you, Jason?
Oh yeah.
Okay, Chip McDuffie's number 2 for me.
Yeah,
so there we go. We
number
can
2.
1 and 2 are out there.
It was a coin flip for me, and I guess I
get it.
Maybe just because there's so much Chris Jones talk,
yeah.
And I know how much he does for the defense.
Sure.
But we also did this after the Miami game. You got and I know he does more than just sack the quarterback. He does a lot of it. But to me, it was close. I went with McDuffie because it's more fun. I
arrow up on McDuffie.
I colored the duck blue because I wanted to see a blue duck. You know, that's what I did.
I have no problem with that.
Okay.
I think those guys have to be 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. I think this defense is worse off without Chris Jones than it would be without McDuffie.
I can see that.
That's pretty pedantic about valuable, though. That's
probably a better way to look at it. So.
Nobody really likes doing MVP voting that way, though, right? Like, oh, well, he'd be the most valuable. You can make a really good argument that Trent McDuffie has been the best player on this defense this year. So I think that's totally fair.
And I'm with you that the next group is where it sort of can get interesting as to what we think. Number 3, I went with Karlaftis.
Number 3, I went with Brett Veach. We're coloring out. Your duck is blue. I'm coloring outside the lines from here on out. Because
since you went that route, I kind of want to change one of my 4 and 5.
I'll never know. I'll never know what it was. But I have Brett Veach at 3 because I was going back through, did kind of like a little mid-season roster project, and it is really hard to poke holes in this defense from a roster construction standpoint, even when you take away a depth piece. Or I'm sorry, when you take away a high-level piece, you have a depth piece that'll step in at a pretty high level. You give him some credit for, drafting Trent McDuffie, of course, but really, I have Brett Veach getting a little bit of a team contribution award there because the whole unit is excellent.
Interesting. Okay. I like that. I like that going off script a little bit.
So Karlaftis, or you want to tell me about Karlaftis? You want to go to 4?
Well, Karlaftis to me, like it kind of goes hand in hand with Chris Jones, but somebody's got to clean it up.
Yep.
The pressures he has this year, I mean, he's racking up tons of pressures, which matter.
Yep.
We looked at the flea flicker, that whatever team it was that ran the flea flicker, I can't remember, that Karlaftis got in there and broke up the play, and it would have been a touchdown.
Yeah.
And Mike Edwards got the sack. But without Karlaftis getting in there and wrecking the whole play, it's a touchdown. Instead, it's a sack for Mike Edwards. Yep. It was just a pressure for Karlaftis. Like, those things have happened throughout the year. And so I think as good as that defensive line is, I went with Karlaftis, and it's kind of, he benefits a lot from Jones, but he also benefits from Trent McDuffie and et cetera. McDuffie benefits from, other guys. Jones benefits from the secondary being as good, all of that stuff. So I went with GK, number 3 for the MVP. Who's your number 4?
If I was doing all players, I think he would have been in my top 5. Number 4 for me is Steve Spagnuolo.
As soon as you said Veach, I'm like, well, now I kind of want to change something to
the controversial thing I'm doing there, I think, is I'm putting personnel over scheme a little bit by what Veach did over what Spags has done. They've both been stupendous this year.
I went Willie Gay at number 4. It might have been Nick Bolton if it wasn't for the injuries, but Willie Gay has played phenomenal football. He was fantastic against the Dolphins, and he is putting together the between the ears, the instincts, the defensive scheme with his out-of-this-world athleticism for his position, and this is what it looks like, and he's been phenomenal this year. So he's my number 4, especially with integrating Drew Tranquil and also Nick Bolton going down. He's been sort of that steady force for the linebacking core for the Chiefs. So he was my number 4. Who's your number 5? Let me guess, Joe Colin?
I thought about it. But I think this might actually be kind of the friskiest member of my top 5. It is Drew Tranquil. Because once again, from a value perspective, if Nick Bolton gets hurt and Drew Tranquil does not exist, I think we are talking about some fundamentally different things in this defense. I'm giving him the edge over Willie Gay. Gay has had maybe the better individual season. He's a better athlete. The development is very encouraging. But I think Drew Tranquil's been really important to this team, so he gets my 5th spot.
My 5th spot was Mike Dana.
Ooh.
And I didn't look at position or anything. I just thought, who were the players that I thought stood out this year playing in a way that was impactful for this team. And I didn't think I would look at the top 5 before. If you would have told me, hey, just guess top 5, what's the breakdown going to be in defensive line, linebacker, secondary? I thought I'd have more than one secondary player out of my top 5.
We both have a little bit of voter fatigue on L'Jarius Sneed, probably.
He's been handsy.
He's been very good, but there's some penalties.
He's been good. There's been some penalties.
Others receiving votes.
And maybe it's a little bit of the coach of the year for Mike Dana that I wasn't expecting to do much, and he's playing much better, so he's going to get the coach of the year in my mind over L'Jarius Sneed. But I ended up going with 3 defensive linemen, a linebacker, and 1 player in the secondary. And it's weird because the strength of this defense might be the secondary, but it could also be the collective group of the secondary that all play at a high level, or playing at a high level right now, but some of the individual play on the defensive line has been fantastic.
Maybe you should have ranked Joe Colin at 1 or 2.
You're not wrong.
That's amazing.
It might have been the case.
This defense is so good, man.
That's right. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. We'll hear from Lee Sterling. We'll hear from Matt Derrick coming up at 11 o'clock, and we will hear from the coordinators and also assistant coaches.
Better be Joe Colin.
I mean, if it's not, what's the point?
What's the point?
More so next.
games this weekend involving the Chiefs. And if we've got games, we've always got Lee Sterling from Paramount Sports on. Big college football games coming up, big NFL games, the biggest game of the year in Kansas City, Lee. What a great time to be betting, and you've got more than just football going on.
Oh, wow. I mean, NBA's going on. They have that in-season tournament. That's kind of added a little bit of intrigue, get teams motivated. A couple players who are making like $500,000-$600,000 or like extra $500,000 to win it all. Count me in. So the guys on the bench will be rooting harder than they ever have, or playing as harder than they ever have when they get in. And then college basketball started. I mean, some great teams this year. Looks like it's going to be a wide-open year. Hockey's on a roll. Hit 10 of the last 12 in hockey, and UFC hit another big one last week, and have our top fight. All 4 sports today and tomorrow. 7 selections, $17. So you want to hop on board. Not the normal $77, $87, $97 for one day. All 4 sports: football, basketball, hockey, and our top UFC selection for Saturday. $17. ParamountSports.com.
All right, let's talk about some football games, Lee, and let's kick it off in college football. The Big 12's wild right now. There's so many games that matter, and the tiebreakers are confusing. No one really understands what's going on. It'll all get worked out. Probably by the end of Saturday night, we'll have a real clear view of it. I don't know what to think about this first game. Oklahoma State is at Houston. They're a 7-point favorite. They laid the biggest egg you could possibly lay last week down at UCF. What are the Cowpokes going to do this week?
Maybe they thought they were going to Disney World. I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen a pretty good team lose that bad. Here's the problem now. Now they're going to face a Houston team. Houston never wins 2 in a row this year. But it seems like off their worst defeats, they come back and play at a very high level. They throw a lot of screen passes, which give Oklahoma State trouble. It's away, a second straight away game. Oklahoma State's really not playing for much right now at this point. I like Houston here. I'm going to take the touchdown here. I think the wrong team's favorite. I think Houston pulls off the upset here, 31-24.
That will definitely shake up the league for sure. Now, Texas is in the driver's seat right now, okay? If they win out, they're good to go. They know that. But they're going to Ames, and Iowa State always has this thing with Texas. They're like 5-star culture versus 5-star players. The Longhorns are a favorite on the road. They're clearly the better team, but a night game in Ames, this will be tough for Texas.
You know, the loss of the running back, Jonathan Brooks, is pretty big. But Texas has depth. I mean, he wasn't even the projected starter or the projected backup to start the year. They thought it'd be Cedric C.J. Baxter or Jaden Blue, so those 2 guys step in. They got Quinn Ewers back. Second game back, he looked decent. First game back, inside the 20. This is a tough team to score on here. And Iowa State, like Kansas State, they just don't have the receivers that can get separation here. They're begging you to play Iowa State. Don't fall for the trap. I like Texas here, 34-24.
And the big one in our backyard here, the Sunflower Showdown. Kansas, very disappointing last week. Jason Bean got hurt. I don't think we're going to know who's going to play quarterback for Kansas until 6 o'clock on Saturday night. Whoever rolls out there is who it's going to be. K-State is playing well right now. They know they have to win if they want to get to the Big 12 title game and have things go right. They won a lot in a row in this series, but this is maybe as close as it's been in a long time. What do you think about the Sunflower Showdown?
So let's say he plays. Chance of him getting hurt? Probably got to be 50-50. He is really banged up. That's a big problem. You saw Ballard, third-string quarterback, is just not ready for prime time. And then also look at the play calling. Very conservative. And you can just tell watching, there's just something wrong there. So, Texas Tech tried to give him back the game. They didn't want to take it here. So Kansas State is rolling. I mean, offense, defense, special teams. I love their play calling. They have figured it all out here. Kansas State just has Kansas's number here. I think they win this game here, 41-27.
Yeah, the Cats know how important this series is for sure.
Yep.
Let's shift gears and talk a little National Football League. A lot of interesting games. I mean, the North got crazy last week with everything that happened there. Cleveland is going to be favored at home against Pittsburgh. Deshaun Watson is now out. Their defense is outstanding, but can they keep winning despite not knowing who their quarterback is or knowing who it is and having it not be Deshaun Watson?
I think it's going to be really tough. I mean, they played hard, and give them credit last week, but now you have to go on you have to play a team that is very familiar with you, and they just the play calling. I mean, you have 15 points. Let your quarterback do a bunch of RPOs. I mean, he's a guy that can get a lot of first downs, take the clock, and just run it out. Not the case. Big key interception for a pick six. So this Pittsburgh team is built to play it safe and prevail. They've been outgained in every single game, but it doesn't matter here. So they don't beat themselves here. They let coaches like Cleveland play the clown role and beat themselves. And I just think that Pittsburgh's defense, which they had 2 touchdowns in the first game, will probably do it again here, get at least a touchdown or set up a touchdown, and also special teams are special. Cleveland tried to give it away last week with a missed extra point. I like Pittsburgh, low-scoring game, 17-13.
Yeah, the North is always close. We know that much. All right, so the game of the year, I think, in the National Football League to this point, it's got to be when you have the teams that were in the Super Bowl last year who played a great Super Bowl are playing each other, and then all the added drama, the Kelsey brothers, Taylor Swift, blah, 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 all of it. It's not till Monday night. It's here. The Chiefs are a very slight favorite at home. Andy Reid's coming off an off week. So is Philly, though.
They are, and I think it's a great setup here for Kansas City. The fact that Dallas Goedert is not playing in the game with a broken arm, he accounts for 17% of their passing offense. And not just that, I think it's the way they go about it. So with him in the middle, you can't double those 2 guys on the outside. You got to pick your poison. Now they can play a lot of 2 deep or 2 high safety coverages, and I think that will limit Philadelphia. Their secondary surrendered the 4th most passing yards in the NFL. Their DBs just do not make plays on the ball. Also, look back at the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts should have had 3 passes intercepted, and Patrick Mahomes had 3 touchdown passes playing on one leg. This defense is so underrated. They held the Dolphins scoreless in the first half, and the season low in points, 14, and passing yards, 175. They get it done here. Kansas City, 31, Eagles, 21.
Can't wait to be there. It's going to be awesome. And can't wait to hear about your free play. You've got the Denver Broncos in here and the Minnesota Vikings all of a sudden both playing better football, and you've got specials for us.
Yep. So this is a big game. Anyone wants to get this free play. Denver and Minnesota, 2 teams that out of nowhere are playing great football. There's a clear right side to this game. First 5 callers get it for free. 800-400-9741. Again, the number to get Denver, Minnesota on me. Big game, 800-400-9741. And if you've never been with me before, or for some reason you're maybe doing one sport, like to try the other sports, or for some reason you hopped off, we're having another incredible year, winning in all 4 sports. 7 selections tonight. That's right, 7 selections, just $17. How do you get it? And it's an automatic download. You don't have to call back later in the day. Just one place. ParamountSports.com.
Lee, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you on Sunday morning on Chiefs Tailgate. The Zone will continue next on this Red Friday on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
The Zone is presented by Guaranteed Foods, delivering all natural food to Midwestern families since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. Later on this hour, we'll hear from the Chiefs. Press conferences going on, some coordinators, some assistant coaches. We will hear from them right now. Let's hear from Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest, joining us here in the Zone. He is presented by Cap One Lending. The Freedom Loan at Cap One Lending is the exclusive loan that helps you pay your home off in less than half the time and gives you access to your home's equity without having to refinance. Go to caponelending.com. Matt, welcome into the show. How are you, sir?
I am doing relatively well, Jason. How about yourself?
I'm doing just fine. Why relatively well? What's going on, man? It's just me and you talking right now.
It's Friday. It's not a fast Friday.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You got more work to do.
Yeah, and you got to work on a Saturday.
Ooh.
I mean,
That's right. Yeah, and a Monday night.
Exactly. It's not a. It's a weird week.
I know. They give you a week off and then they make you work. What's the point of that? It's ridiculous.
Exactly.
Yes. Where are you at? Are you at the Chiefs facilities right now? Are people talking in the background? Or you tell them to shut up?
They are not. Although I am heading that way now. So
okay.
I may sound like I'm in a tunnel. I don't know.
No, you sound just fine. Before we talk Chiefs, because you tweeted it out yesterday, that might be one of the cooler videos that we've seen posted with Cody Schrader and Eli Drinkwitz.
Yeah.
When at the end of the game, Eli Drinkwitz finds out that if people have not seen it, go check it out, whether you're a Mizzou fan or not. Cody Schrader was 20 yards short of the Mizzou school record for all-purpose yards, and Eli Drinkwitz gets on the headset to Kirby Moore and says, "Hey, Kirby, we got to get 20 yards for Cody. Put him back in the game. It's all-purpose, so it doesn't matter. Throw it to him, run it." He goes over to tell him, and Cody Schrader's like, "No, I'm not going back in." And Eli was like, "Come on, man, get the record." He goes, "This team wasn't built chasing records," and stays out of the game. And then post game, Eli tears up talking about what Cody Schrader said and not going back in the game. Man, Patrick Mahomes, you probably created in a laboratory, but for any college football team anywhere, if you had a player like that grew up a fan of that and then went to Division II and then walked on and is now one of the best running backs in the country and the leader in the SEC and then says, "No, I don't want to go back in the game. We weren't built on chasing records. Let the guys out there get some run and get some stats." I mean, he was created in a lab probably.
Yeah, I mean, and what I said when I tweeted that out is that this guy's more Rudy than Rudy. I mean,
that's exactly right. He's more Rudy than the actual Rudy was.
Yeah, I mean Rudy didn't do anything. I mean, Rudy didn't even really do anything. I mean, he was just out there, and they had to kind of fabricate his backstory and everything. Hey, Cody, you don't have to fabricate anything. I mean, this is real. I mean, he had one Division I offer that got pulled, and then he had only one place to go. Goes and becomes the national, rushing champion at Division II, and then just a random booster, which we need to find out who the booster was.
No kidding.
I mean, that booster is like an MVP.
Yeah.
But then to get to Mizzou, I mean, and be the SEC leading rusher and almost at a school record. I mean, if you pitch that movie would not get made because it'd be that's not realistic enough.
Yeah, the greatest recruiting night for Eli Drinkwitz in his career, he called it. He was at dinner with the booster, and the booster was like, "Hey, what about this Cody Schrader kid? If you got a spot to walk on." And then he left that dinner and went to an in-home visit with Luther Burden. So,
yeah,
one hell of a night for Eli Drinkwitz. And then the next day he's riding a pretty good high from visiting with Luther Burden, and the booster calls and says, "Hey, what do you think about what we talked about with Cody Schrader?" He's like, "Yeah, sure, whatever. Yeah, sure. We'll give him a walk-on spot. That's awesome." And then you watch the post-game video, and you got Luther Burden and Cody Schrader standing next to each other. And it's like, that was one hell of a night for Eli Drinkwitz. You never really know, and one hell of a game against Tennessee.
Than that.
Yeah, no, not at all. Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest. Is it going to get better than the Werewolf documentary on Monday for Chiefsaholic? Because I don't know what I'm more anticipating. Is it the Chiefs and Eagles game that night or the ESPN Plus documentary on Chiefsaholic called Werewolf?
I mean, I get the fascination and all, but No, I don't care about Chiefsaholic. No, I mean, as soon as this guy is gone, better. I mean, give me more trailer talk. I mean, I don't need Chiefsaholic in my life.
Yes, I will watch it. I'll be honest with you, but I'm obviously more anticipating the Eagles game. Also, big shout out and pat on the back to you because a few days ago you said Keandre Coburn wouldn't be surprised if he reunites with the Chiefs on the practice squad. And for those that did not hear, he is on the Chiefs practice squad now. Broncos let him go. Chiefs pick him up, practice squad. And what he said in the locker room yesterday, Matt, I thought was interesting that he said when the Chiefs were in Denver playing the Broncos that he said he teared up looking at the Chiefs sideline with Felix and BJ and those guys. As he's standing over there with the Broncos wearing a Broncos uniform, he's got tears because he's watching the other sideline wanting to be over there with his guys.
Yeah, and here's how about this for a not-so-subtle plug. But when that all went down, when Keandre went over for the Broncos, Nick Jacobs and I, over on the 41 is the Mic podcast, explained exactly what was probably going to happen. Denver claimed him because it was literally week before the Broncos game. So they can claim him, get Keandre to come in and say, hey, yeah, tell us what you learned over there with the Chiefs and give us some inside info. And when you claim a player on waivers or assign a player, remember, it's a 3-week commitment. So you're going to give that guy 3 game checks no matter what. And when did the Broncos waive Keandre Coburn? After 3 games, after 3 weeks. So, and then it was like, okay, when the Broncos probably waive him after that, let's see if he comes back to Kansas City then, because the Chiefs wanted him. I mean, they were really hoping that they could sneak him through waivers. You heard Steve Spagnuolo talking about him, and they really were hoping that he would sneak through. Broncos kind of messed up that plan. I think that was kind of, you could see it coming just because of the way that the schedule played out. But him coming back he was pretty emotional in the locker room yesterday. He's a good story.
Yep, absolutely. It's a really cool story. Matt Derrick is our guest, ChiefsDigest.com and 41 is the Mic podcast, along with Nick Jacobs. Do you have Andy Reid continues to deflect any credit or compliment about him after a bye week that, I don't know, we've got good players, and just kind of been lucky, whatever. Is there anything you can point to or put your finger on as to why he's so good? I mean, we talk about it every year, and yet every year he continues to win after a bye. 3 for 3 last year after a bye. Like, is it just that, hey, he's got good players, or anything else going on that you look at as to why he's been so good and so hard to beat when he's got an extra week to prepare?
I mean, it could just be a noisy statistic. It could just be that he's fortunate that he has more wins after byes than other teams. I mean, when you look at his record, I mean, honestly, as successful as Andy Reid has been, it's actually not a whole lot better than his regular season record anymore. I mean, his regular season record is pretty darn good just any regular week. So, I still think part of it is that you give a coach the quality of Andy Reid 2 weeks, to decipher some things. I think that's just too much of an advantage. The week-to-week pace of the NFL, I think, evens some things out. But when you give Andy Reid 2 weeks, he's going to figure out how to pick you apart.
Is it the same thing then when you give him extra time to sit back and just self-scout, that they can figure some things out? Because that's been, obviously, Matt, I mean, we've talked about it, you've written about it, that the second half of the season, one of the storylines is going to be where the improvement comes from. Can the defense continue doing what they've been doing? And is there a level to reach for the offense that if they get there, then good luck to other teams in the NFL? Could the same thing be said to where Andy Reid, all right, an extra week to go and sit back and self-scout, that there's a number of areas, whether they're smaller, finer points, but a number of areas that can get fixed and corrected to make the stretch run?
Yeah, I mean, I do this periodically, but I kind of went back over the last couple of years to look at some of the things that Andy Reid said in press conferences during bye weeks. And, and that's one of the things he's really talked about is self-scouting changing, that it's not really as much as watching film anymore and kind of seeing the execution and looking at how you perform that way. It's more about the analytics. It's really about looking at how you perform in certain situations, personnel groups, all those things. And that's what they really kind of pick apart now. And so that's why I think you're going to see it in the second half of the season. There's more changes than that.
Matt Derrick's our guest, Chiefs Digest.
I think that may have just been a dismount with a
I think so,
phone
too,
burp
yeah.
there. Sorry, Matt. We were so enthralled by
Yeah.
what you said there and how brilliant it was, and also your phone, the little thing that was a little disorienting.
It went silent, so I don't know if it went silent because you had wrapped up your comment, or if it went silent, you were in the middle of a comment, but you are, saying that it might sound like you're in a tunnel at times. And I'm going to guess it's the latter. Well, Jason, actually, no, that's not what's going on at all. What if he's still talking right now?
Do you think?
What if he's offering some of the most brilliant commentary and analysis right now?
Unfortunately, that's not what's happening. Because what is happening is that he's at the Chiefs facility, and he just alluded to the fact that the Chiefs use analytics. And I'm afraid we just heard the last of Matt Derrick. I think he's on a river somewhere right now. They work quick.
No. I'll tell you what, man.
Missouri River.
If there's some weights tied to his legs right now.
His feet are in cement right now.
Ugh, swimming with the fishes.
Davy Jones's locker.
Matt, you there? You with us?
I can hear
Oh, thank God!
Okay.
Oh!
There he is. Hold on. Are you talking underwater right now? Blink twice if you're in Albuquerque.
I might be. It's hard to tell. I'm definitely in one bar territory. So yeah.
Okay.
I'm definitely pulling some tricks here.
Yes, all good, man. So where do you think the biggest improvement can come from? Not that it necessarily will happen, but where do you think the biggest improvement? Offense is obviously what we're talking about, but maybe even finer points specifically that where you think that those steps can be had.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's obviously the low-hanging fruit that Andy Reid has talked about, which we've all talked about. And it's true. I mean, if the Chiefs don't turn over the football, if they don't drop passes, and they don't commit as many penalties as they're committing, they're going to win a ton of football games. I mean, some of it is relatively simple. But then when I look at some of the numbers, I look at things like, okay, Patrick Mahomes
is the greatest human being I've ever met. That's what I look like. I look at a human rating score, and he's 100 out of 100. In fact, he's like a 105 as a human rating score. Patrick Mahomes and Cody Schrader are the greatest human beings ever. In fact, people don't realize, Jason, that Cody Schrader and I, we're actually related. He's a second cousin on my mom's side, first removed.
Maybe we figured out
the revelation from Matt that he and Cody Schrader are related.
Maybe we figured out why our connection to Arrowhead is occasionally also a little spotty for pressers and whatnot. There's some
geofence that
there's
they have.
something going on, yes, to keep communication from going out.
Let's check in again. Matt, you there?
I can hear you guys perfectly. I have no idea why you can't hear me.
Tell Fowler I can hear him. Tell Fowler I can hear him.
Exactly.
That's great. A little Beano Cook in the house here. Okay, so turnovers, drops, penalties. Is it? I know it's that simple, but is it that simple for this team? Because if it was that simple, it would have been fixed by now, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's one part of it. Then, to me, and some of that is, how can you work on that? I mean, some of it's just reinforcing the things that you have to know and do. I mean, it's, and like Andy Reid will tell you, I mean, it's just, making sure you can actually catch the football. There's things that they can clean up as far as, trying to, reduce their penalties. I mean, this team's committing penalties at a 40% rate higher than they did last year. Wow. There's reasons for that. I mean, and part of it's, they got a lot of young guys playing. More experience should clean that up. But, reinforcing doing the right things will help too. But it's, the other things I look at is, like, Patrick Mahomes, this is where maybe I started to disappear. His highest passer rating when he's targeting a receiver this year is Rashee Rice. So, to a degree, why isn't Rashee Rice getting the ball more? I mean, I think you're going to see him getting the ball a lot more in the second half. What are, keys to the Chiefs winning games? It's when they run the football efficiently and effectively. You certainly look at how they rushed in their two losses versus the rest of the season, and there's some definite things that pop out to you as far as they did not run the football. And it's not as simple as that you're running with a lead. It's that you're gaining a lead because you're able to run the ball. You're able to, force defenses to pay attention to the run game. And when they do that, they have to, take their eye off the ball in the passing game. And that opens things up for Mahomes. So if the Chiefs want to do the things that they want to do downfield, they've got to be able to run the football, especially against some of the light boxes that they're seeing. So, that's I'm sure some of the things that absolutely jump out to them when they look at the numbers. There's probably a lot of other things that Mike Frazier is telling them, saying, hey, there's individual situations and, personnel groups saying, hey, when teams are doing this against us, this is how we look and how we perform. Those are other things that they can change and tweak. And obviously they have incredible data that they get now. But that's like I was saying earlier. I mean, that's a lot more of what they do during the the bye week is looking at the analytics and trying to figure out strategy rather than just simply looking at your first 9 games on film and breaking it down and saying, oh well, it's technique or it's this. I mean, it's everything, but it's a lot more of the analytics than it used to be.
Do you expect the usage of Kadarius Toney to increase? And is it, as Andy Reid said, some injuries and nursing him along and maybe trying to get him as healthy as possible for the late part of the season and then, boom, have him out there, for 50, 60% of the snaps because certainly that hasn't been the case as of late. Is it an injury thing? Is it a trust thing? And no matter what it is, do you think there's going to be a different sort of percentage of usage for Kadarius Toney these last 8 games of the season?
Yeah, I do think there will be a change. When that change occurs, I don't know for sure, but it may still be a few weeks. It might be until December, maybe even the January even, when we start to see more and more Kadarius Toney. I don't think there's any doubt, and he hasn't really been asked directly, but I think certainly from the tone of some of the things that have been said, and certainly with what's happened since then, I think the Chiefs really regret putting Toney in the position that they did in Week 1. Because there was really no reason to do that. They rushed him out there and put him into a tough spot when he had to be rusty. Absolutely. I mean, he had played virtually no football for 6 weeks, and he was coming back quickly from an injury. Has no training camp whatsoever, and they put him out there after just a handful of workouts and certainly nothing high intensity, and wanting to play a lot of snaps against Detroit, and what happened? Disaster struck. You could tell that his timing was off. He wasn't at the same speed and game speed as everybody else around him, and there was a good reason for that. And then after that, he gets a sprained toe. Now he's got an ankle that he's dealing with, and he's still recovering from knee surgery. No matter how minor it is, it was still knee surgery. So yeah, I there's no doubt. I mean, and especially after what Andy Reid said, that they were really trying to manage his snaps so that he's going to be stronger in the second half. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's when is that going to kick in? I mean, do they want to hold him back a little bit more and really start, maybe, getting him involved in the last month of the season, and then you got him going into the playoffs? Because they're certainly looking at big picture with Toney instead of the short game right now.
Yeah. Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest, and also 41 is the Mike podcast with Nick Jacobs. Last one for you, Matt. Prediction time. What do you think happens with the Chiefs and Eagles Monday night? The line, by the way, has dropped a half point. It's been at 3 for a while, but now it's Chiefs minus 2.5 in that one. So 2.5 to 3, now back to 2.5. What do you think happens on Monday, Matt?
I mean, I'm really of two minds on this because there's part of me that is certainly you do not bet against Andy Reid on a bye week. But there is so much just intangible-wise that's going to be on the Eagles' side in this one. I mean, there's no doubt they want this one. They've circled it. It's going to mean a lot to them. I think it's going to mean more to the Chiefs than it will to the Eagles. And, hey, I'm never going to be one that says that Andy Reid sandbags games. I don't think – and he would absolutely fight me if I ever did. But I still, at the same time, I think that if Andy Reid has a magic potion for how to beat the Eagles, I don't think he's using it in Week 11. I think he's saving it for the Super Bowl because he knows there's a pretty good chance he might see these guys again. So, no, I mean, I do think that the Chiefs, if they have a way to beat the Eagles, that they might save it. But at the same time, they might test some things out to probe it and see about holding on down the line. I mean, I just see so many intangibles on the Eagles side. I'm still reserving the right to change my mind before Monday night, and I may do it. Right now I'm going Eagles 27-24, but I'm looking forward to this because it should be one of the best games, if not the best game of the NFL season, because these two teams are too good. The atmosphere is too great, and And if I know for sure that the entire Taylor Swift family is going to be there, I mean, then we have to take Travis, because Travis is going to go for like 250 yards, right?
Yeah, take the over on everything with Travis Kelce. Anytime touchdown, maybe first touchdown of the game.
Number of defenders the Eagles will devote to him.
That's exactly right. The over on Swift family cutaways and the shots on TV, over receptions, over yards. Take the over with Travis Kelce. You're right about that.
Yeah, and I mean, this is I don't. I mean, I'm not saying I don't look forward to games and everything. You know, I can be the jaded sports writer at times, but this one I'm excited about. You know, covering and everything, because this is why you got into the business. I mean, this is one of those games that is just going to be absolutely electric, and the atmosphere, you know, is going to be fantastic. And I have to imagine this is going to be a good game. I can't imagine either one of these teams putting it away. I mean, it's going to be decided late.
Well, here's the thing, Matt, as we let you go on this. If the Chiefs win on Monday night, then you are required next Friday, or when we have you on, maybe next Wednesday, maybe next Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever.
I'll text you.
We'll figure it out. You are then required to pick the Vegas Raiders to win 27-24 if the Chiefs win on Monday night, because you had the Dolphins winning 27-24, and now you got the Eagles winning 27-24. So if the Chiefs win, you must come through.
Yeah, I've been stuck in that 27-24 score, huh?
Well,
why do you want the Chiefs defense to give up 27 points so bad, Matt?
It's like you're just dying for it to happen.
I keep thinking that some week is going to be the week that the Chiefs defense is actually going to get beat, and Steve Spagnuolo makes me look like an idiot. So
no, he just makes other offenses look idiotic. So it's not
well played.
Anything that you're doing. It's no big deal. Matt, you're the man. Appreciate it, sir. Get to work, man. Come on, get to work. And
hey, ask the good ones today.
Yeah, just
hey, actually, do you know what coordinators are talking yet? Have you seen that list?
I believe we're getting all three coordinators, and it is also assistant coach day. So
we don't have the list of assistants yet, do we?
I know. Let's see. I know Connor Embry. I believe David Girardi is in the mix.
Wow.
Dave Merritt, I think, is always our hit.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember. There's a fourth or
if it's not Joe Colin, go give Brad G a piece of my mind.
I want to say that we always ask for Colin because he's just too good, but I can't remember for sure if he was on the list. But I know those three were.
All right, ask Embry if the receivers are good.
I got some things loaded up in the chamber for Connor.
Great. Make sure you get to the bottom of the underwear issue with these coaches and their superstition. Do they wear it to the game or during the game? Now that we got that figured out with Patrick, the rest of the team needs to let us know what they're doing on game day. Matt, you're the man. Appreciate it as always, sir.
And then next week, I need to find out about your lucky underwear, Jason.
Believe me, it's not lucky.
Because they don't exist.
Yeah,
he doesn't
right.
wear underwear.
I'm not wearing any. Matt, thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye.
For all of our sake, goodbye.
There's Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest. And also, 41 is the Mike podcast with Nick Jacobs. It's a fun podcast. You should check it out. It's also fun when Nick Jacobs is like, well, I'm going to save my rant for... You know what? I'm going to do it right now. All right, I'm ranting right now. I tried to save but damn it. Can't hold it anymore. I'm just going to get into it right now. So, yeah, it's an enjoyable podcast. So, thank you to Matt Derrick. We will take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. Remind you, he is presented by Cap One Lending. Freedom Loan at Cap One Lending, the exclusive loan that helps you pay your home off in less than half the time, gives you access to your home's equity without having to refinance. Go to caponelending.com. We go to break. We come back. We continue rolling. We'll hear from the Chiefs. We'll hear from Mick Schaefer. We'll hear the cuts. All that's still to come on this Friday. Thank you to Matt Derrick joining us in the previous segment. We'll hear from the Kansas City Chiefs. The schedule is going to be the assistant or the coordinators, Spags, Tobe, Nagy, and then the assistant coaches will be Connor Embry, David Girardi, Merritt, and Cullen. So we get Merritt and Cullen a lot, but they're very good. And Matt Derrick's saying there, like, well, it's going to be Embry, it's going to be Girardi, and then Merritt's always a pretty good one. And he didn't know about Cullen because the request for Joe Cullen is out there quite frequently because he's very good.
He really does talk like every time, and every time I'm like, hey, hell yeah, we got Joe Cullen again.
Let's hear a guy who just talks like football.
Yes.
So what does football sound like? Here's Joe Cullen talking. There you go. That's what it sounds like. 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. 913-912-4810, the text line to join us. Matt Derrick, back-to-back weeks, or back-to-back games, I should say. 27-24 winners for the opposing team. I'm not joking. If the Chiefs win on Monday night, he will be required next week to pick the Raiders. It's on the road.
You don't ask him for his prediction next week.
No, I'm just going to write down 27-24 Raiders.
Say, Matt, your prediction this week, 27-24 Raiders. Thanks for joining us.
That's right. So there you go. 913-912-4810 is the text line. If you are just joining us and didn't hear last night after the game, it looks like Mark Andrews is lost for the season. So if you have him in your fantasy league, I apologize. If you have him in real life on the Ravens, I would apologize as well that it does not look like he will be playing again this year. And it doesn't even feel like there's a qualifier of season ending unless they make it deep into the playoffs, then he can come back. Kind of sounds like if they're already saying it's going to be out for the season, even though there's no official announcement or official word on what it is, like maybe surgery required to some degree on that ankle. And the conversation turned into last night, the hip drop tackle that claims another one, and it's the ankles. I mean, the ankles are the ones that are getting destroyed in these hip drop tackles. Tony Pollard, Dak Prescott, Patrick Mahomes, Mark Andrews. Like these are, and a lot of them are the high ankle sprain or the dislocated ankle or the fractured ankle, dislocated for Dak, fractured for Tony Pollard. Thank goodness out of those four, the least severe was Mahomes.
Yeah, okay.
And even as quote-unquote least severe, it's like 4 months after the season, he was talking about that he's almost back to 100% with his ankle. It was like, what, mini camp?
Yeah.
He was like, well, it's almost back to 100% with yeah, that's a 6-week or 8-week injury that you're out when you have something that bad. And he was able to play through it, much to the chagrin of Bengals fans who said that he was feigning the injury and was faking it. Of course, Joe Burrow would never do that. His injuries are real. Patrick Mahomes are fake, which is perfectly fine. You can live that life if you want to. But I do think, well, it's not only that I think, they are going to address the hip drop tackle in the offseason. That has already been discussed. That has already been said that they will, competition committee after the season, will get into a discussion around the hip drop tackle if it needs to be outlawed. When they got into the subject of the horse collar tackle, I remember at the time, the conversation was, well, what do you want a defender to do? If he's by you, now all of a sudden you just got to let him go? Well, they wanted to eliminate injuries that were happening from the horse collar that were tearing up knees. And guess what defenses did? They adjusted to being able to do that. And it's like, well, what? I mean, just put flags on them. Right, I know. And as we said that you can't hunt for the head, just put flags on them. And, you can't hit a defensive receiver. Just put flags on him. There's no horse collar. Just put flags on him. You know what we're doing? We're still watching football. We're still watching big hits. And if you take away the guy grabbing the shoulders and just lifting his body up to swing on the guy and then taking out ankles, I mean, you eliminate that, defenses will have to adjust. And by the way, I know that, the NFL's soft if they're doing that. Well, I don't think rugby players are soft. And the Australian Rugby League eliminated, or maybe, which league was it? Either way, one of the professional rugby leagues has eliminated the hip drop tackle in rugby. I don't think they're soft. I think they're pretty tough, in fact. All the games that I've played against the professional rugby players, they are very, very tough. I would not question their pain tolerance. And even in that, the players are like, yeah, we got to get rid of this. It's injuring too many people. So I think with Mark Andrews, and if there's another one, knock on wood, I don't want another one to happen. I don't care who it's to, what team, whatever. If there's another one, then I think we're heading towards the quicker enforcement of an illegal tackle on the hip drop. That'll be more difficult to enforce, I think, than the horse collar.
Yep, absolutely. Because it looks like a football play until you see it in slow-mo, or in some instances you can see it in real time. But it looks a lot like a regular tackle, and sometimes stuff like that ends up happening. The open field ones are the ones that you say, hey, if there's any other way to bring this person down, defenders are going to need to try to adjust. Because the league doesn't get any better anytime a star gets hurt.
Yeah, and I know there were people that were saying that, well, Arden Key stepped on a foot, and then when he stepped on a foot, he just picked his legs up. Which, yeah, he does step on somebody's foot. I just don't think Arden Key, when he steps on a foot, just immediately lifts his legs up and takes all body weight off of legs. I don't think that happens very often for him. I would love to go back and see all the times he stepped on a foot to see his immediate reaction. So while he may have stepped on a foot, he also picked up his entire body and grabbed onto Patrick Mahomes' shoulders and then fell into the leg, which is the hip drop tackle. Maybe he stepped on a foot. That seems pretty straightforward. The Tony Pollard one was pretty straightforward. All right. And grabbed him by the waist, swung, and destroys his ankle. You don't want to see injuries. All right. You want to try to make it as safe as possible. There's a difference between saying, let's make football safe. That is impossible. Let's make it as safe as possible. Hey, let's try to figure this out. All right. Targeting, all of that stuff. We've tried to take head injuries away as much as possible in the NFL. This is one that's going to be, I think it's going to be more controversial because it's a tougher real-time enforcement than a horse collar or even a hit to the head. That's true, too. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll hear from Chiefs assistant coaches, and we'll hear from the coordinators, and we will do that next. right, so we'll hear from the coordinators. Steve Spagnuolo, Dave Tobe, and Matt Nagy will be at the podium today, along with assistant coaches Connor Embry, wide receivers coach, David Girardi. It's David Girardi, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Not Joe.
Right, or David Girardi, or David Garrard.
No, it's exactly right.
That's where I got
it the
confused
first
last time.
You're
It's because I called him David Garrard. Or no, I called him David Girardi because I was confusing the David Garrard and David Girardi. I added the E to the Ard with the Gur. David Girardi.
Quarterbacks coach.
That's right.
We call him DG.
Dave Merritt, call him DM. And Joe Cullen, call him JC.
WWJD. What would Joe do?
Release the hounds.
He's got those initials, baby.
That's what he would do. JC.
Wouldn't loaf, tell you that. No loafing. Just Chris Jones talked about the loafs.
That's right. An excessive amount of loafs.
Not in
for Chris
Joe
Jones
Cullen's house.
Yeah. We'll see what these guys end up having to say. Matt Nagy certainly, I'm guessing, will be asked about Kadarius Toney and the usage there. Rashee Rice getting him more involved. Why Rashee Rice touched the ball twice in the game against the Miami Dolphins and had a touchdown and a fantastic first down conversion on 3rd and 5 with the diving catch that helped lead to the rest of that 95-yard touchdown drive, which was one of the more impressive drives of the entire season. And are you going to get him the ball more? And also, I'd love to know what he's seeing from the run game because they're going up against light boxes. They're just not very good at it. They're not executing against light. It's like run against light boxes. They are. Yeah. Just not blocking well. Here's Dave Tobe.
Nope. Injuries.
Oh, here's injuries.
Which there may not have been any of.
Here are not injuries.
There were no injuries to report yesterday, so as long as everybody kept it clean in practice.
Yeah, just keep it clean, guys.
So then after practice,
keep it clean.
So.
And maybe there's no injuries with guys wearing like wrist braces and things like
or
that.
Or iPad gloves, which is a thing that I learned about this week.
iPad gloves. Is that what they're saying Joe Burrow was wearing? Was an iPad glove?
iPad glove is trending on Twitter, and I didn't know that this was a real thing. It definitely might not be what Joe Burrow was wearing, but apparently it's like if you're drawing on an iPad,
it's definitely not what he was wearing.
Your hand doesn't touch the screen. Do we see all 4 of his fingers?
Yeah.
In that they're all open. All right, all right, Bengals.
It's a bowling brace. Here's Dave Tobe.
You ever have what happened to the Bills at the end of the game? You ever have that happen to you at the end of a game?
Not at the end of a game. I was thinking back. It might have been the first year we had Tom Bahali stayed on the field one time when when he wasn't supposed to. He's never on field goal block, and he stayed out there one time. And we had 12 on the field. I think it might have been the Chargers game. I was thinking back, but I mean it's something everybody's going to have to practice for sure this week for sure. You're going to walk through it or whatever. So
you guys,
we're doing it. We're going to practice it today. That situation right there. I mean, it's you just never know, man. I mean, you never know. You talk about it, but you gotta actually go through it.
What can you give us a little scouting report, maybe on how maybe Philly's different than they were when you got to the Super Bowl, or what their return teams are like? Yeah,
the return teams are very good. I mean, Covey. I mean, we had a lot of respect for him going into the Super Bowl too, and he ripped us for a long return. If you remember in that game. Almost popped it. So I mean, he definitely has our attention this week. I mean, we have to hang the ball up good. Tommy's got to be solid, and obviously we got to be good with our net coverage. To try to control him. The return in the kick return game. I mean, they've had a bunch of different guys back there, and it's been last week it was Scott, and he he's a north and south physical running back style. He's got one return for 38. I mean, that's the only time he's really got one, but it was impressive.
We're over halfway through, or about halfway through the year for everybody. Has anything surprised you, good, bad, or the otherwise, on the fair catching and the kickoff rule? Been different than you thought?
No, right now, we have Frazier. He's our analytics guy. He does, he keeps a study and he's tracking all the amount of fair catches that there's been like 43 fair catches so far with short kicks. And it ends up being like 17% of the short kicks are being fair caught. The rest of them are all being returned still. And the average is teams are getting out to the 25.1. So it's it's kind of it's mixed. So we're doing that just to check and see if we're doing the right things, and we always do that. So it's kind of interesting though.
Tommy Townsend's been on the injury report. Maybe some different injuries. Is he okay? I mean,
He's okay. He banged up his hand and his wrist. So, I mean, it concerns you a little bit with the holes and then obviously catching the punt, the snaps. But, he did that a while back. So now we're already, we had the week off. And so he's moved on from that. He's still on injury report because he wants to keep getting it treated and make sure it's still bothering a little bit, but he's going to be okay.
I didn't know you had to put hand injuries on the injury report.
We have to put everything on the injury report.
Maybe in some cases. The shot for others. A year ago, maybe knock on wood, or you don't want to do this, but all the conversation was about your holds, right? That was what we were talking about. That was.
Sure.
I haven't had any problem. Is it just?
Oh boy.
Is that just was there an aha moment? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you tell us what.
Not really. I always knew that Tommy was an excellent holder. I mean that was something that kind of just came out of nowhere, really. I mean, to me. So, I mean, I've never lost. I've always had faith in Tommy as a holder. I mean, never lost it. He's been solid.
I don't want to call it the yips or anything, right? But is that something that you see guys that they're great, and then somebody even 8-9 years in, they just get a little bit
Sure.
off?
I mean, I've seen long snap. I've seen it happen to long snappers. I mean, guys been great all year, and all of a sudden, I mean, for his whole career, 8, 9, 10 years, and all of a sudden they just can't snap anymore. It's kind of weird. I mean, it happens. I've seen it.
You had McKinnon back for a kickoff return in Germany. Was that just to give someone different?
That was a design. We had him the whole game. We knew that when they hit the ball, they hit it to our right, and some of those touchbacks. I mean, they were getting touchbacks on mishit balls. So we lined up McCole right in that spot in case he mishits one. So McCole gets the short kick, and then if they kicked it to our left, which is exactly what we wanted him to do, McKinnon gets it. We missed a block. We had one guy miss a block on it. If he would have made his block, I mean, we're getting that return out to the 50. And obviously a kick return, it's like an offensive play. You have to have everybody doing their job, and somebody missed up on that one.
No reason to change necessarily, but you sticking with Nicole Hardman going into the second half as your both returns.
Yeah, McCole. We have faith in McCole. McCole's fine. Keep improving on his decision making, and we'll be fine. Got a long way to go. We're getting better and better each week.
It's been a while since the game, right? So I'm trying to get back to this. We've asked you a lot about McColl's returns and when to catch it, when to not catch it. You caught that one really deep.
Yeah.
Right, like the 2-yard line. Is that the right thing to do in that position?
Not in that situation. I mean, that one, he kind of kept drifting back. We had a return call, so he wanted to return it. We had double the gunners, and, we had a return set up, but the ball just kept drifting back, and he's got to have awareness of where he was at. That probably would have been a touchback, probably. If it hits, it's going to go touchback.
At the midway point, who's leader on your points board on special?
That's a good question. Right now, Bucker is just crushing everybody. But I mean, you take the kickers and the punter out of it. I mean, you got Leo Chenal, who's very, very consistent. He's been playing great, and then a rookie Connor is really doing well. Number 27, Shamari. I mean, he is, for a rookie, he's a good player, really good player.
Last one.
That is the last one. All right, thanks. See you later.
There's Dave Tobe. Not in that situation, McCole Hardman to catch it at the 2-yard line. They did have a return on, and he kept fading back, and decided to catch it at the 2-yard line. Interesting that Dave Tobe said that probably would have been a touchback. I was fully expecting him to say, well, these kickers are so good that if it lands at the 1, it's probably just going to die right there.
Could have spiraled into the ground and then just dug itself in like a javelin.
That's right. I mean, it's like quicksand. These fields these days are terrible. That thing would have landed and not moved at all. Javelin is a great example of that. Maybe it's Lamar kicking or throwing the javelin. They designed the football to match his limp-wristed throwing style.
He said McColl's fine was his ringing endorsement about keeping McCole Hardman back to return punts. McColl's fine, he said.
17,
keep improving his decision-making.
17% of the short kicks have been fair caught. The average return of these short kicks have got the teams out to the 25.1. Does not sound like the juice is worth the squeeze, and it's worth the risk of a penalty just to get to the 25 where you would get if you just fair caught it. And, well, Jerick McKinnon, it's exactly what they kicked it exactly where we wanted it, exactly the play we had set up, and he got the ball out to the 21.
If they would have made it a block, I mean, they're only one block away from it getting to the 50.
Yeah, so are 15 plays a game. Well, this was one block away from this play being an 80-yard touchdown. Yeah, but it wasn't.
You haven't seen all those punt returns where 7 guys in coverage converge on the returner at the same exact moment?
I mean, if I had $1 for every time Dave Tobe was like, well, we were 1 block away from breaking that. Now, I would have exchanged all of those dollars for the Kadarius Toney return in the Super Bowl, in which the blocks happened, and he did end up returning it. Although the blocks happened after he juked a guy and made him miss and then went back against the grain. That's how that thing burst wide open. It was Kadarius Toney making a play and being special in that moment, not it was blocked perfectly. Here's Specs.
Dumbass idea.
Spags soon.
We were told, here's Spags and then Spags.
That was a pretty dumb idea.
Anyway, 17% of the short kicks are fair caught. Again, to the 25. Hey, here's Spags, we think.
Just fired up to get back out there and keep. It's nice we've gotten this weather, huh? We get outside yesterday, we'll get outside again today. So with that, I'll just open it up.
How big is the challenge to try to slow down A.J. Brown?
Yeah,
He did a nice job against number 1.
Yeah, it was a challenge when we played him, whatever it was, 10 months ago, and it hasn't gotten any easier. You know, it all begins with the quarterback, and I got a lot of respect for this quarterback. I mean, certainly after having played him, and we had respect for him before that. But so I'm going to start with Jalen, just because I think he's one of those quarterbacks to me that can beat you with his brain, he can beat you with his legs, and he can beat you with his arm. And I mean, that's pretty dynamic threesome for a quarterback to have, because not all of them can do that. And he's been in the system a long time, and they do the right things with him. He gets him in and out of plays. He can get him out of a run play and throw it with the RPO game. He does it all. He's faster than you think he is. We put tape on this morning, and just when you think you got him, he's in and out of there. So a lot of respect for him. And then he's got the one weapon you're talking about, but he's got them all over the place with the wideouts. And we're going to be totally in tune to that because we feel like the explosive plays kind of bit us the last time we played them. We got to eliminate those, try to make them earn it a little bit. And then the other thing that happened that we all remember is they had the ball for a long time. So we began this week with first and second down are huge. To end up in those short of third downs is really tough against this team. I mean, they'll run it on a 3rd and 7, and then go for it on 4th down. We know that. So they keep you on your toes. So we just feel like first and second down is a key down for us in this game. Key downs.
Steve, you faced a number of the league's top receivers this year.
Yeah.
You've done a pretty nice job against them. Other than guys are playing well in the secondary, something you can put your finger on why you've been able to...
Well, in most of those, I'm going to give LJ a lot of credit now. In a lot of those games, we did travel him. And if he didn't end up on him, usually Trent did, and that was on purpose. Whether we'll be able to do that or not with this team will remains to be seen because, listen, Smith's pretty good wideout too. So this is a team that really has 2 dynamic wideouts. So we'll be a little bit careful either way. But I would give LJ a lot of credit for that and the fact that the secondary has really functioned well chemistry-wise and as a unit. And anytime you're playing a pass attack, when you get your DBs to do that, it makes it a little bit better.
How well is the secondary playing the blitz?
Well, I think I was looking at it in this bye week, but I think we've been pretty effective on that. I think they've been really good. Now, some of our blitzes are zone behind it, some of them are man behind it, and we ask them to. It's a little bit interchangeable sometimes when we call those things, and they've been on point in terms of being on the same page together. We all know what happens when the secondary isn't on the same page, right? There's busts, but for the most part, we've been pretty solid.
You mentioned LJ. He's had a couple of penalties in the last few games. How do you? It's a fine line, right? Like you still want him to be aggressive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's some cost to doing business penalties when you're a press team and you're going against a really good wideout and you're trying to be aggressive and you try to take that guy out of the game. Now, LJ will tell you that he knows that he can be a little bit better. Sometimes the hands get a little bit too high, right? And we get hands to the face, so we get a little grabby. We can avoid those. But I really don't want LJ to become less aggressive. So he'll probably maintain that and hopefully not get as many penalties.
Steve, you talked about cost of business penalties like that. Those
cost of doing business penalties.
Yeah. Where do you draw the line there?
Yeah, they're not all. I mean, most of them are not. You know, the undisciplined ones, like we don't want to be jumping offside. We don't want to take personal fouls. Those aren't.
Down the field.
Yeah. Listen, sometimes it gets tough down there. I mean, if a guy felt like we had no help behind him and he felt like he was going to beat for a touchdown, you see guys grab because it's like I'd rather take the penalty than give up the touchdown. There's not, and when I use that term, there's not many that I put in that category. When we put the penalties up this week of what happened in the Miami game, I mean, to me there was only one. We had 5 or 6, so for the most part we try to avoid them.
Was there a little bit of frustration with Chris with that penalty that he had against the Dolphins? You were getting off the field and he gets the first one.
Yeah, I mean, Chris knows that. I mean, I think if his emotions just got the better of him, and hopefully going forward we'll be better at that.
Coach, I know when you first came in that first year, I remember at training camp you said, don't judge us on what we're going to be early, judge us on later. And sure enough, you guys really picked up steam and were better going on. Last year, the theme was look at all these young guys and wow, they're playing well. Now you're playing even better. Yeah. Is that a process of you're able to give more to them? Like we're getting all the way into the Steve Spagnuolo defense, or is it just they've been in it and they react faster?
I think it's probably more that because we haven't changed too much. There's been curveballs here and there. I talked with him this week about, listen, I mean, we've had some success, but you can't get a playoff berth in half a season. You can't win a Super Bowl by winning 7 games. There's a lot more to this, and so we want to be doing that as we go. And part of that is, when you got 9 games of film, talk about on our defense, offensive coaches in this league are pretty smart. They start to figure out. So we got to be able to put some tweaks in there. And I think with this group, to what you're saying, I think you can do that because everything else they feel like they're confident in doing what they're doing. So you throw a couple of curveballs at a team. Hopefully that keeps you ahead of the curve.
And Dave's just a follow-up. Dave's your position coach on that. He's obviously got a lot to do.
Dave Merritt, you're talking about? Yeah.
And he was with you in New York.
Yeah.
The championship. Are you surprised not a defensive coordinator in this league already?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think we got a bunch of guys on the defensive staff that could do that. Joe certainly has already done it. Brendan's been, he's been doing it for a long time. I hope that happens for all of them. It's like when I was in Philadelphia and Jim Johnson was the coordinator, he was hoping myself, Sean McDermott, Leslie Frazier, Ron Rivera would all, and it happened, and I hope that for our guys too.
You mentioned second and third down. Obviously on 3rd and 1/4, you want to have the rugby style. Any beat on any win?
Yeah, I think I'll get back to you on that. Listen, we watched. I mean, I think Washington had one play where they actually did a pretty good job, and I think they might have been a stop. Then they went for it on 4th, and that's the thing. If you stop on 3rd and 1 for a half a yard, they come right back on 4th down. You got to do it again. Listen, we'll try to be as stout in there as we can. I don't have any secrets on it. I wish I did. The best thing we can do is try not to be in those situations. That's why I'm going back to 1st and 2nd down.
Steve, yesterday Chris mentioned watching rugby film.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was joking, but is that?
I don't know if he had. I haven't put any rugby film up, but it wouldn't surprise me if they were taking a look at that or talking to people that do it. Maybe that's the way to go. I don't know enough about. I love rugby when it comes on. I'll watch it once in a while, but I don't know enough about it. I know that thing moves though, right? I mean, it's not like it goes backwards all the time, so I don't know. But when it moves, it's not for a first down, right?
Yeah. So with that, Steve, is there? Do you spend more time on it from a rep standpoint than what you would normally do, or is it just something where you have to trust the guys to just?
Yeah, there's a little bit of trust involved. I mean, look, we cannot simulate that in practice. I mean, you got to be full padded and be doing that, and we don't practice. Nobody really practices that way now. And so it's more of a, it's an assignment thing. We're talking to guys about maybe we could do this. We're trying to steal things that were on tape that we thought were pretty good. But it's a mano deal, right? They're pushing us. We try to push them back.
2 more.
Steve, you mentioned 4th downs. Obviously, the Eagles are as aggressive as anybody on 4th downs. Just you don't have a choice in whether or not they're going for a 4th down. You did once, but a lot has changed in that short time analytically. I'm just wondering how you view just the concept of
the going for it. Yeah. Oh, look at that. I mean, I'm on the other end of that, right? We're at the mercy of whether they decide to do it or not. I mean, a lot of it depends on how you feel about your offensive guys, where you are in the game, the risk reward, and it feels like more people are getting riskier But this particular team, they feel pretty good about when it's only that far to go, right? And they've been pretty successful at it. So.
Coach, another kind of big picture one. The defenses as a whole in the league are playing lighter and lighter in the box. Yet this year they're better at stopping the run.
Is that right?
Yeah.
When they do that stat, are those run plays they're counting only with lighter box counts or just runs in general?
I think the way it was phrased, lighter box. They're better with lighter boxes. Defenses overall are better
with lighter
fewer men in the
boxes,
box,
yeah.
and they're doing a better job of stopping the run. Is that more an indication offenses aren't running anymore? They've been hearing how you got to throw all the time, and they're not as good running it, or you guys
I don't know
figured out
that.
something on your side
Yeah.
better?
I'm not sure I got a good answer for that one. I'd have to go and look at it a little bit. I mean, I know from my standpoint, we're always, really, it doesn't matter who we play. We're always going to begin with, you got to stop the run first, because I just feel like if you can't do that, any good football team, offensive coaches are just going to keep running it, especially with the quarterback we have, you know. So we're all, but I don't have an answer for that one. But there'll be an off-season study. Thank you.
All right, there's Steve Spagnuolo, Chiefs defensive coordinator. And, I will say that certainly seems the Chiefs' opponents defensively, light boxes, have been better against the Chiefs in the run game. You're listening to Sports Radio 810 WHB Kansas City. We will hear from Matt Nagy right now.
As successful as I'm sure you guys would like, I know defenses are playing you a certain way. Is that the reason for it, or there are some things you guys need to execute better?
It's probably a little bit of everything. We obviously look at that stuff. You want to be able to take shots. You want to be able to run the football. There's a lot of things you want to do, but you also have to adjust to what defenses are giving you and what they're not giving you. So I think when you look at right now with our downfield numbers, we're still taking shots, right? Probably the biggest thing is we want to, however that is, we want to be able to be a little bit more efficient with those numbers. So it's not, I mean, you still need to keep defenses honest, however you do it. And I think that our coaches and players on staff do a pretty good job of trying to figure out different ways with different personnel. But we're certainly taking the shots. I think efficient-wise, we can be better.
And you talked about, with guys like Rashee Rice, you have a package and you kind of build it from there with where it is. Big picture, I know there's, all these option routes. Your offense is quite complicated and it's a process for everybody to learn it. But I don't think, off the top of my head, I don't think you have any receiver that's been here more than 2 years, right? So everybody's fairly new.
Sure.
And then you got a bunch of young guys, too, that are new to the NFL. Is there a scaling back of the offense? Is that, or is it, we got to get to where we got to get to, and eventually they got to get the whole package, or do you have to, for
There's
lack of a
not-
better term, dumb it down?
Yeah, no, there's not a scaling back on it. That's one of the things Coach Reed has always done. Every year I've been with him since back in Philadelphia, it's always been starting in training camp OTAs, give them a lot, see what they can do well, and then adjust accordingly to their strengths. With the guys that we've had and what you just mentioned with having a couple guys, or most of the guys that are here, a couple years, there's a little bit of putting the puzzle together of what they do well. The timing element is probably the biggest thing that I think, forget us as coaches, but Patrick with the guys, is trying to figure out what routes they run well, and then the timing element to that with the defense. So I do feel like these guys are really mentally starting to grasp what we're trying to get from them. And we're doing a good job of trying to figure out what they do well. And now Patrick's doing a good job of practicing those routes with them. Now at this point in the season, we've set ourselves up record-wise to be able to really know that, hey, we keep doing good things. We keep getting this thing better on offense. It's a challenge for us. And I think players and coaches, we want to do that. We understand that we can be better. But at the same point in time, big picture from the self-scout and looking back, there's two big things that jump out, and that would be the penalties and the turnovers. And I'm saying specifically offense for us. So it's not that we're not moving the football or we're struggling, but those are the two big ones that we got to reduce with our defense the way they're playing. I think, we can really make good things happen.
Coach, we know that guy is grasping things, and with Rice in particular, he had the most snaps of any of the receivers against Miami. Is that an indication that he is grasping things a bit more, and is it just a matter of the targets will come with those snaps?
Probably. He's, again, done a good job of trying to understand this offense and how he fits and how we fit him into certain things, and us figuring out what he does well. So you'll probably continue, and that's a good thing. I mean, again, when you draft somebody, you want to develop them, and it takes a little bit of time. It doesn't happen overnight. There's some ups and downs with it. There's some frustrations and excitement. But if the kid wants to be great, and we have great wide receivers, guys that want to be great, it's just a matter of continuing to just keep practicing and getting out on that field and producing.
Coach, the Dolphins did a nice job against Travis, and we see that sometimes where they're able to win that.
Mm-hmm.
On the fly, and you see a team have success early, how does that change you and Coach Reed's process of like, we need to maybe work through something else on the fly?
Well, really, to be honest with you, it's never changed. It's always been that way with Kels from the start. And now what we have to try to figure out is, okay, just working into what defenses are doing specifically coverage-wise, timing that up with what they're doing to Kels. And then working through the timing elements and the newness of the new receivers, matching all that together. Kelsey has been seeing double teams his entire career. That hasn't changed. How people get to it hasn't changed. So we know adjustment-wise within a game, we got to prepare game plan-wise, and we got to prepare in game with Kels. The other stuff is a matter of preparing each week and adjusting each week with those guys and matching it all together. But none of that has changed with Kels, the game plan-wise stuff.
Matt, is there a common theme in regards to penalties and turnovers that you're noticing that you can sort of say if we just do this better, it'll naturally lead to fewer penalties and turnovers?
I don't think there's a theme to it, but it certainly happened too much. And it's all about, it's tied into rhythm. And you look at like in Germany against Miami, came out the first drive, great energy, efficient, go down, score a touchdown or a supposed touchdown, gets called back and score another one.
Right.
And it felt great on the sideline. First half, better drives, things were good, no penalties, we stayed away from the penalties. And then we come out in the second half and we had two big penalties that just stalled drives, and then we had a fumble, we had a turnover on a sack fumble. All of that happens, and we had control of that game. We were in a great place. And so when you got to punt the ball, you go 3 and out. If you have turnovers, it's not like it's happening all the time, but when it's happening, and it just goes to show, I look at it from the positive side, and Coach Reed, preaches this all the time, and we all do, is that the good thing is that if you just reduce those and eliminate them, great. If you reduce them, right, just look at where we can be, because we're doing a lot of great things. The players are doing a great job of executing. We just got to reduce that negative stuff.
Based on that discussion, do you feel like, I guess, how do you shape the idea of like, we need to change offensively versus what we're doing is working based on the defenses we're seeing, and just trying to stick with what you guys have presented so far?
Yeah, we have an identity on offense that changes every year with the personnel and the people. We also even scheme-wise, it changes as well. But throughout the season, as you go through and you see where things are at, if it's a penalty, what are the penalties? Are they false starts? Are they holds? Whatever those are, how do we reduce that? And then we lock in on that. And the guys most of the time know that. The turnover stuff, what happened on the play? Was the play open? Was it a poor decision? Was it a drop? Was it a tip pass? When was it? And so we take all that into account, because in the end, the team that has the best turnover margin as a team, offense, defense, special teams, going to have a phenomenal chance of being in where we want to be. We're a part of that on offense. So we got to respect the football and take good care of it, but yet still keep that aggressive mentality that we've always had, and adapt to the way that defenses are now playing across the league, and be able to accept that and find different ways to exploit it.
The different penalties, and that's an oddity. We talked so much about Jawan with the false starts.
Mm-hmm.
You guys as a team who really don't have a problem with that, but you're, I think, one of the 5 most penalized teams with holding.
Mm-hmm. How
do you address that? I mean, is it when they occur? I mean, is it sometimes holding on to the ball too long? Is there any comment?
Yeah, there is some of that, Matt. There's for an example is, I can't think of one specific play, but I do know, and from playing this game a long time and playing myself the quarterback position, is you can also help out the O-lineman when it happens. So if you, for instance, as for Pat or for any quarterback, when you drop back, if you drop back too far and your feet aren't right, and then you try to flush the pocket, and for whatever reason you had a good pocket in the middle and you flushed out and the guy just instinctively grabbed them, that if that's happening too much, then you got to be aware of that, the O-line and the quarterback. if it happens every now and then, we like when Patrick scrambles at times too. So we can't, it's a double sword edge. Like you can't say, well, don't do this because good things happen. You got to be careful with it. So we've looked at all of that, and we just, we want to focus on, hey, just trying to keep your hands tight inside with the holds. Pat, when you're in the pockets, trust your feet and your timing, stay within the progression of the play. All these guys know this stuff. And now we just go do it, but we got to practice it. And when you practice that way, you usually play that way.
What are you seeing from Philadelphia as you prepare for this game that's any different than what you saw when you guys prepared for the Super Bowl?
There's some differences. Obviously, I know Coach Desai well with being together for 4 years in Chicago schematically. Have a lot of respect for him. Players are a lot of the same, and they play hard. They play a physical style of football. They complementary football with their offense and special teams. We got to be able to protect up front. We got to be able to do all three phases for us, and whatever that is, whether it's run, play action, every part of it, we got to be good and know that they're good. Great defense with great schemes. So I think schematically there's some differences, but nothing too crazy.
Matt, we hear about superstar athletes making their players better. How much do you see Patrick taking ownership and wanting to make his receivers better?
All the time, and I probably it's probably not out there as much as it should be with his accountability. He's the first one. Now he's going to get on guys and all of us when things need to be done the right way. But the reason why that carries so much more weight is because he does it to himself. And whether it's breaking down a huddle after a game, win or loss, whether it's in between series, whether it's at practice, whether it's in a meeting, he holds himself to a high standard. And there's, I think it's just so impressive to always have, like he does that all the time. So when you have that, it carries a lot of weight, and the guys respect that. The coaches respect that. We're all in this thing together, and we're just very lucky to have them.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
All right, there's Matt Nagy. We will hear from the assistant coaches, Connor Embry, wide receiver coach, David Girardi, quarterback coach, Dave Merritt, secondary cornerbacks coach, and Joe Cullen, the defensive line coach. So Matt Nagy weighing in on a number of things there with improvements that can be had on the offense, penalties, turnovers. We've heard about that. But a few things that I want to get into when we have time after the assistant coaches are done. When he was talking about the timing with the wide receivers and what's going on in the passing game, and then also the holding penalties, I thought those were pretty interesting answers from Matt Nagy. Here is, we believe, Joe Cullen.
This team right now in the NFL, they do a great job. Coach Sirianni and his staff. Coach Stoutland, the offensive line coach, been there for a long time. He's as good as there is in the league, and they do a great job with their run game. Coach Johnson is new offensive coordinator, and it looks like they haven't missed a beat, and they got weapons all over the place. So I'm sure Coach Spags talked about what our task is, and we have a big one. And with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Joe, we saw in Frankfurt after Chris's penalty, kind of giving it to him on the sideline. Just wondering what you could share as what you're trying to press upon him in that moment.
Chris, no, that's a little tough love. But no, I mean, Chris is obviously a very smart, intelligent player. And sometimes your emotions, just try to keep them in check. And let's get him on the next snap when it's live. But grateful that didn't hurt us, and it could have, and just a learning lesson. But no, he's that's behind us, and Chris has been great.
Karlaftis and Dana continue to grow in their own right, but how much of an impact has Chris had on their ability to kind of win this year?
I tell you, Chris does a great job. I mean, Chris has been a great leader this year. And last year, I mean, when George came in, and he was with Mike before, but taking those guys under his wing, and I mean, he loves that room. Chris is the piston that drives the engine. And but when people are focusing on Chris, I know if I was game planning, I'd have 2 or 3 on him, and every snap I'd have someone account for him, and that opens up lanes for other guys to make plays, and as a group, that's all you want, just to make the plays when you have the one-on-ones, and Chris has done a great job of that.
That trio, George, Mike, and Chris, they're on pace for all having double-digit sacks. That doesn't happen very often. That's a pretty rare feat. How special is it to have 3 guys of that caliber?
We don't even know that. We just know that it's the next snap. Coach Spags calls the defense, puts us in position for the players to make plays, and we always talk about this in the room, and Chris said it the other day, when all 4 as a front, or 5, when Coach brings 5, are working together, it doesn't matter. It's the unit that gets the sack. It's the Kansas City Chiefs. And when that happens, good things happen as a defense.
Coach, besides the obvious of keeping them out of 3rd and 1, right? Like, you're going to face their tush push. And it's been incredibly successful. They got you a lot, obviously, in the Super Bowl with it. Got any new magic wrinkle, any new advice for the guys, any reason?
If anyone has any new ideas, let me know. But no, that's something we've really talked about after that game and Coach Spags over the offseason, and just being able to get a little bit lower, do a few things that maybe will help it. And last year they jumped and they got us to jump, but we got them in a 3rd and 1. They jumped and then we got the touchdown right after that. So it's about stopping it with leverage, and then people being able to get the quarterback, because the extra push and the second push is really what gets you. But we're going to try to do everything we can to keep them out of those situations. Let's get them 3rd and long.
I get the feeling that your take on it, it's in the game, we got to deal with it anyway. But should that play be in the game? Do you think it?
I know this. It's a legal play, so we're going to coach against it, and to me, we have to get ready for anything. If it's legal, we're getting ready for it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
1st and 2nd down. Spags talked about it. They've talked about it before. 1st and 2nd down. It's huge. And even 3rd down, and Steve Spagnuolo brought up a great point. 3rd and 7, they'll run the ball. If it means that they can maybe get a 4th and short, because they'll go for it there as well. But yeah, I mean, nobody has an answer for it. They may win. A team may win the rep and keep them from picking up the 1st down, but it doesn't mean that's the answer to do it every single time. It means that you won that particular rep. There isn't a team that has just stopped them every single time and is like, yep, we've got the secret formula to doing that. No, there's nothing like that going on. And the secret is to not have 3rd and shorts and 4th and shorts, because they are going to win. Here's Connor Embry.
He's coming along throughout the season. I like where he's at. He's working well, working hard every day. And then just the snap count, it depends. You guys know we got 7, 8 receivers, so it's kind of whoever's the hot hand will keep feeding, and then just next man up kind of mentality and stay ready. So he's doing good.
Connor, at least outside the building, there's, I think the perception is that the quarterback and receivers haven't always been on the same page this year. What's just the thought inside that room on that?
Yeah, I think a lot of it just takes time. I think it takes time. Like I said, we got 7, 8 receivers. I think throughout the season, we just little by little, we're getting, better chemistry, more in touch with each other, kind of understanding when we get this look, what Pat's thinking, what the wideouts are thinking. So was a big group coming in this offseason, a bunch of new faces, and now that we're kind of settling in and figuring out kind of who can do what, and it's that. So that's it.
How much of, like, when you say getting better, is it like what tells you, what are the signs you're looking for? Is it just like reading a play correctly, and therefore you've got some options on where to go, and the receiver goes to the spot that Pat's wanting him to go?
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of ways you can tell or see if someone's getting better, and I think it's by each player is different. You can, they might pick up something quicker than the other player, and this guy might have to work harder maybe off the field than on the field with mental stuff. So it just depends.
Last one, anybody? Cool. Thanks,
I was
everybody.
going to say, I had just one more. Just, you talked about having 7, 8 receivers. How difficult is it to keep those guys fresh and keep their heads in the game?
Mm-hmm.
There might not, maybe the ball's not going to go to them in some weeks.
Yeah, and that's part of the learning experience. Most of these guys in this room, they've played every snap their whole life. They've always been the best guy out there and never off the field. So that's a learning experience where you have to learn, hey, this game I might get 15 reps, the next game I might get 40, like you were talking about Rashid. So you just got to be locked in, know what you're doing, know kind of what role we have for you in the game, and then when the play comes for you to make it, you got to make it.
Following up on that, just to, are you eventually looking for 3 or 4 guys to step up by the time playoffs come, or are you okay with this deep rotation?
Yeah, no, I think we're okay with it. We got good players. It's not like we're trying to force 8 receivers out there that can't play. So the reason we got them is because they can play. So, and then that's on us to figure out, and the receivers on them to be pros, and when your number's called, go make a play.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, there's Connor Embry, wide receivers coach for the Chiefs, and hey, multiple coaches, they're coming along. They're getting better. The timing, getting on the same page. They're all sort of figuring it out together.
All 7 or 8 of them.
That's right.
Which is hard.
It is difficult.
But fine.
It's difficult to do that with 7 or 8.
But it's okay.
Would you like to see that scale down a little bit? No? I mean, I'd like to have more. If we can get 9 or 10, 15 guys, that'd be great.
Maybe some guys who have never played football before, so it's even harder to get everyone on the same page.
Josh, you available?
I'm not actually.
She got post game, so
I would have to. I could probably play the first half, which is all Rashee Rice needed to do. So maybe I'm in. All right, I'm back.
The second half.
Practice squad deal, standard elevation. I'll do it for 1 week.
That's exactly right. We'll still hear from David Girardi and Dave Merritt. Here's David Girardi.
Back in the O-line, and there is a quarterback role in helping to avoid those. But how do you do that? I mean, how do you kind of work to help try and cut those down in the second half, and what Pat can do?
Yeah, from a quarterback standpoint, it's going to come down to getting the ball out on time, things like that. So that would be the big thing. If something there, take it. Go through your progressions, and if your first, second, they're there, take them. Sometimes quarterbacks can get caught extending plays, and Pat's great at that. So you also have to weigh that as well. But from a quarterback standpoint, if there's a hold, that's typically going to be things like that, not getting the ball out on time, just in general.
Was there a certain area of focus that you had during the bye week?
Yeah, I mean, we had a chance to go back, look at, really everything, scheme, obviously my position, quarterback, for me personally. But with Pat, just in general, it's always going to come down to fundamentals, things like that, progressions, all those little things we talk about within each given week. But when you have a bye week, you have the opportunity to go ahead and kind of hone in on that a little bit more. You don't have an opponent that you're necessarily working towards. It's all about yourself in that bye week. So having the opportunity to go through that, talk through those things, and preach that's been kind of the message.
It seems like you guys used to be able to throw it down the field, left and right. How do you feel like Pat through half the season is just like living in the intermediate and those coming maybe a few and far between?
Yeah, I think he's grown there. I feel like that's somewhere he's grown throughout his career. Just if it's not there, get into the check down. There's times that he wants to make that big play, and we love that about Pat, and his willingness to try to hit that big play. But he has grown, he has developed, and taken the underneath stuff. It could be something in the flat, and then let our guys go make a play. So he's definitely grown there, and something that he sees and knows that's available to him.
Anybody else?
You've had probably a better look at it than almost anybody has, but between, him last year with the ankle injury and this year he's had a few little dings, he has a hand laceration, flu game. I mean, his ability to just kind of gut through things, how unique is that?
Well, you love it about him. I mean, he's a competitor, and he wants to win, and he wants to give everything he has for this team and for the guys in the locker room, for us as coach. I mean, he loves these guys, and he wants, like I said, he wants to win. He's a competitor, so he's going to do everything he can to get out there and play, and give it everything he's got.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
All right, there's David Girardi. Interesting, him talking about the holding penalty or holding penalties. Matt Nagy talked about it as well, which I do want to circle back around after the press conference is over in their commentary on what they're seeing. And David Girardi saying, well, from the positional standpoint of what I coach, the holding penalties are it's getting the ball out late, not getting the ball out on time. And that's one of the reasons why the holding penalties happen. Certainly, yes. Matt Nagy said that, some of it is you drop back too far or you've got a clean pocket and you leave. And if that clean pocket, the guy's there and the offensive lineman's making the block, and now all of a sudden you're running to his right and he's holding on, and then there's that little grab when the guy gets away because you're not expecting that to happen. The Chiefs offensive lineman certainly should be expecting that to happen, but that is what makes it a little difficult is I'm supposed to continue blocking this guy in case Mahomes is still in the pocket, but I also need to be aware that if he leaves the pocket, I cannot be holding on because as soon as that guy tries to get away from me and I'm holding on, that's going to be a flag. So Look, it's one of the things about Patrick Mahomes. It's the good and the bad. It's the give and the take. He will leave some clean pockets, but he's also the best quarterback in the world. And, if he leaves some clean pockets, he leaves some clean pockets, but he's also brilliant. Here's Dave Merritt.
He's had, I think, 7 over the last 3 games
Right.
in the holding PI category. And it being a cost of business, doing business, how do you make sure that he kind of maintains that aggressiveness and, living big with some of those penalties?
Yeah. I think the first thing for LJ is at the line of scrimmage, nothing is going to change other than lowering his target. He may have had one that was called hands to the face, but majority of his penalties are going downfield when he's in phase. And so with that being said, not to get too technical, what LJ is going to have to do and what we've been working on and even started working on it last week, and hopefully it'll start clicking in, is once he's in phase running down the field with a wide receiver, he has to know right now that at that point in time, as you're reading your keys, when that wide receiver sinks his hip, you have to make sure that you're just pumping your arms. But what he's doing is he's grabbing, he's reaching, trying to just hold on, almost like a little kid would do to a mommy or daddy when they're trying to run away from him. He's like grabbing. And so he's just got to trust that my ability is good enough to run the route with him. And that's one of the things that we're working on. But majority of them, again, is happening once he gets in phase downfield. So that's what we're working on.
You guys have had him tail the opposing tallest best receiver. How difficult is that, and what makes him so good at that?
Yeah. So we give LJ a Nim Leeson assignment. You go and take care of this. And so therefore he can study film on that particular wideout, and he's done pretty decent so far. I know there's some plays that he wish he can have back on certain guys, but overall, LJ being able to go and match up with an elite receiver that's outside or inside, that allows you to do a lot of different things. And so we've been blessed to be able to have a young man like LJ and his skill set. If we remember, he came out of college as a safety, and he thought he was going to play safety in the NFL. And so we tricked him a little bit and hypnotized him and said, you can play corner. Wait a minute, you're going to play nickel this first year. T5 was excited. The Honey Badger was excited because he can go back and play safety. But LJ, he's learning constantly still. And so he's just a fun guy to be around. And when you can match him up, he doesn't flinch. So it's been great.
Hey, Dave, what traits of Steve's do you think enable him to be successful as a coordinator and things that perhaps influence you even?
Yeah, Spags and I go back a long ways. I mean, I'm talking back to 2001. We were friends. I still remember when Tom Coughlin called me in 2006, heading into the 2007 season, and asked me about Spags. And I was at the Senior Bowl at the time, and next thing you know, he became the coordinator. But some of the traits that he brought to the Giants when we first started coaching together in 07, 08 was his consistency to just basically stay the course. No matter what happens, he is preaching the same message, and he is teaching fundamentals, which is one thing that I pride myself on, is teaching the kids, or the young guys, fundamentals. But he stays consistent to what he's called to do. And when he came back after he left in the 08 season and came back in 2015 at the Giants, I was like that cockroach you couldn't get rid of at the Giants. I was just there when he came and was there when he left, and then there again when he came back. But he came back with the same fire and eagerness to be able to teach young guys how to play football, even if it's just something small as playing curl flat. All right, where are your eyes? Where's your angle of departure? How he teaches the technique and how he conveys his message to the young guys is one of the things that I see that is one of his great skill sets. And so I'm happy to be around him.
And just part of that is also, obviously, he's consistent, but also innovative, I assume you'd say.
Oh, yeah.
Those two go together.
Yeah, I actually just yesterday in the defensive back room, and after I made the statement, Mike Edwards as well as Deion Bush shook their head. I told the young guys, I said, you would never play in another system that's as hard as this one. We play from cover 0 all the way up to 3D clue 2-to-1 read corners. I said, so no matter where you go from this point on, if you find another coordinator that puts more on your plate to know, technique-wise, to know coverage-wise, that changes up with the same look, I said, make sure you give me a call and I'll pay you $100. So, and I said that, asked the guy, I told him that yesterday, because there's no other coordinator in the league that's going to give you the amount of volume that Steve gives the players every week. And it's constantly changing, and it's fluid. And so it's exciting.
3 left,
Yes.
Adam.
Dave, with Trent McDuffie, we obviously see he's playing better, but when you look at it, what are the reasons why you think?
I think maturity. He came in here as a mature guy. Trent was probably the highest graded corner that I had ever graded coming out of college. So his IQ was already there. Never, ever imagined that Trent would be here with the Chiefs. And so when we were able to go up and get him, that was a big Christmas gift to all of us. And so I think just his maturity, his ability to be able to take it from the classroom and what you say verbally, and can picture and visualize what it is that you want him to do. And so once you get on the field, you're not wasting time explaining it again. So a lot of guys, as you explain it in the classroom audibly, then all of a sudden you may draw it up on the board. Okay, then they may see it. Some guys still need to walk through. Trent is able to take what you give him. He's able to basically grab the concept and be able to just compartmentalize it and put it where it's supposed to be, and then he can use that tool when it's time to use it. He's tremendous.
When you say highest graded, you mean overall?
Yeah, I mean, Trent, from my 20-plus years, just been in the league a little bit, he is the highest graded corner that I've graded that we've been able to draft. Let me say that, as far as drafting them. There's been some other guys, you look at the Sauce Gardners, don't get me wrong, Cromartie back when he was at Florida State, but I'm just saying, for a guy that I've been able to coach coming out of college, I've never had a guy like Trent McDuffie fall to us.
Dave, back to Snead for a second. You talked about how making him a corner was
Yes, sir.
It's easy to see now. You guys made the right decision. Was it that easy to see then, or was it maybe a difficult decision?
No, you can see it now. He's a COVID baby. So, and I say that because I didn't meet him until we got to training camp. So I saw him on video, and I call him all the time, "You're a COVID baby." So we didn't have a chance to work with you in the off season. And so from day one, when you saw this young man's explosiveness in and out of breaks, and then you didn't know that he had then the violence that you can see within his football violent nature, but he has heavy hands and he's a competitor. Even in our jog through, there's a young man by the name of Anthony that run routes for us, and Snead would like for Anthony to release full speed every time, and we're in jog through. That's not Snead's MO to just walk through. He wants work every day. So you could see that right away that he was going to be pretty good.
Last one.
Dave, you mentioned Trent taking what you guys, put in the film room and
Yes, sir.
on the board,
Yes, sir.
transferring that onto the field.
Mhm.
He's had a knack for creating turnovers this
Yeah.
season. Is he doing it just like you guys are doing it?
He sure is. I mean, he is, and I cannot, no one can take the credit for that, because Trent has the want to. Just like when you see players punching at the ball, raking at the ball, you look at Peanut, Tillman back in the days. He had a knack for getting the ball out when he was at Chicago. Trent is turning into that type of player. And I think runners, wide receivers are starting to realize, okay, you better go, two hands on the ball when you're around McDuffie. And so it's something that is just within him to know that, okay, hey, the ball is in front of me. Why not just reach for it? That's what he did with Tyreek. Tyreek had the ball in front of him like a baby where he was going to take it. And that's what he did. And so it's just something that's just within that particular person to be able to do that. We can drill all we want to, but you have to go and do it once the film comes on, as well as the game starts to play. All right. Thank you, guys. All right.
All right, there's Dave Merritt. Certainly very complimentary of his secondary, and makes a whole lot of sense as to why he would be as high on them, because they are fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Talking about L'Jarius Snead, and then Trent McDuffie being the highest graded corner he's ever graded out of college that he was able to coach. And that's not really a surprise because of how good Trent McDuffie has been. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. More Zone next.
How are we doing, everybody?
That's got to be the video. Radio would get not much from that except for Mick going, "Wah!"
Nobody ever watches that, right? The stream.
People don't watch Mick.
People tune in for
People aren't
Mick.
on their phones, are they?
When Mick is on, it's just like TV. He's to be seen, not heard. So people then go to the Twitch or the YouTube or the Facebook or whatever different platform just to watch you.
They mute me on TV. You just look at me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've started calling highlights of games with just me on camera.
Ooh, I like that.
Like, Sean East hits the shot. Trust us. I'm just going to show you me.
Maybe switch it up, and you're just standing there on camera, and the original audio from the highlight is just playing. Not even the play-by-play.
Yeah.
Just the footage. Just some
the gnat sound.
Some squeaking sneakers on hardwood. Just looking at Mick.
It's actually sound you just made up in a lab. Like even there, just like here's some sneakers squeaking. There's a whistle, and this guy made a
Crunching
shot.
up some corn stalks, right?
Yes.
Mick's
Mick's just doing Foley work on camera, getting a couple of coconuts, and here in the Kentucky Derby this weekend.
That is Mick Schaefer. He is KSHB 41's sports director. We'll get cuts in before the show is over. We'll also raise the roof before the show is over. And we're going to do a little college football talk as the Sunflower Showdown is tomorrow. Mick, I don't know if you knew that or not. But
it
the
is.
Sunflower Showdown tomorrow, 6 o'clock.
The Sunflower Showdown, the big one is tonight. The actual one is Blue Valley Southwest and Mill Valley. That is the Sunflower Showdown.
Is that played in Lawrence?
No, it's played in Overland Park.
Oh.
Or
Still Kansas.
What is it? 162nd and 69 Highway. Is that like a Stanley down there? Or is that some sort of
it's almost Stanley.
different little burg that's been annexed
close.
by Overland Park? We'll call it South OP.
Annexed.
We just claimed the land.
That's right. I got to look it up now. I want to know exactly.
I think Blue Valley
where this
High
is played.
School is in Stanley. And Blue Valley West is pretty close, so it might be. But that's where the game's going to be.
I'm going to find out right now. You've asked the question, and I will deliver. So that's what we do.
How you doing, Mick? How are your new gloves?
We are nothing
They're
if
so
not
good.
factual around here.
Well, it's so weird in Kansas City and Johnson County. Like I get
Park,
mailed
yeah.
a Shawnee Mission the last 20 years that I've lived here. That's not a real town.
No, it's not. It doesn't make
Shawnee
any
Mission's
sense.
not a real town.
No,
A school district, maybe a postal code or whatever, but
You live in Ray-Pec?
you live in Ray-Pec.
No, I don't live in Ray-Pec.
You live in Baser Linwood? Just one of them,
You
actually.
live in Mill Valley?
Blue Valley is beautiful
sorry.
this time of year, though.
That's
a lot of valleys around
A lot
here.
of
Blue
valleys.
Valley, Mill Valley, Grain Valley.
Yeah.
A lot of Blue Springs,
That's
Blue
right, yeah.
Valley.
There's some
I'm
summits.
on Lee's Summit.
A lot of
Hold on.
springs.
There's
Blue
some hills.
Springs, Excelsior Springs, Bonner
Yeah.
Springs,
There's
Park
some-
Hills, Pembroke Hills.
There's some hills that are regular and south.
There's Ray's. There's
Mhm.
Ray Peck.
A lot
There's Ray Moore.
A lot of people named Staley
And
around the area.
There's Ray Town.
Yeah, there's towns,
Yeah,
and there's a
town.
south town, just
The north town.
south of the Ray town.
North Town.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of those going on around here.
So much. There's
there's a view that's grand.
There's Tonganoxie. That's it. There's one Tonganoxie.
There's only one grand view.
There's Liberty and there's Independence right next to each other. By the way, there's an Independence, Kansas, and I didn't know this till recently. There's a tiny little burg right next to it called Liberty.
No kidding.
It's like they just put them in all these states together. It's a
And
package
Liberty and
deal.
Independence.
Well, and then there's Wellington and Napoleon are right next to each other in Missouri. And there's another town.
They named a town after the movie coming out?
Yeah,
That's exactly
they
what
knew
they
it was going to
did.
be big.
Yeah.
Or I
Wow.
guess, I mean, the movie will be big. He wasn't.
What is it? Wellington.
You think he had like a Napoleon
Missouri.
complex or something?
I don't even know what that means. I haven't seen the movie yet.
It's an ice cream.
You're like
Oh,
Nate.
yeah.
You're like Nate
Napoleon
Bargatze.
ice
He's like, I know nothing about history. I watch these movies. I'm just as surprised as they are. Pearl Harbor. I had no idea.
No idea.
Just like them.
I was caught off guard just like they were. Yeah, it's a great bit by Nate Bargatze. I believe we need to take a break. We'll
Yeah,
do
we
that.
should do that. I
We'll
mean,
come back.
Mick has certainly done his heavy
it.
lifting for this segment.
Okay.
That's right. We'll take a timeout. I do want to get into some things that Matt Nagy and also David Girardi said about the holding penalties. We'll get into that and some other things as we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
The Zone is presented by Guaranteed Foods, delivering all natural food to Midwestern families since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Dylan Michaels, Josh Brisco, Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41 Sports Director, hanging out with us here. So, Matt Nagy and also David Girardi were asked about the penalties because we've heard Andy Reid say you got to eliminate the penalties and the turnovers once they figure that whole thing out. I mean, just penalties and turnovers. If you turn the ball over very rarely and you don't commit penalties, your offense might be pretty good.
Carissa Thompson told me that. That's what they need to work on. She's right, whether
that's because
or not.
Barack Obama specifically told her that at halftime of the game last night. Anyway, we'll get into that in a second. But Matt Nagy, when asked about the holding penalties, and he looked at Patrick Mahomes, and he said, well, the quarterback position, you can help out the offensive line. If you drop back too far, okay, that can be an issue. If you leave a clean pocket, well, that can be an issue. A guy grabs, all of a sudden he thinks everything's fine. Yep. And he said one thing that we're working on is Pat in the pocket, trusting his feet and timing and progression. And this is where I think the entirety of Patrick Mahomes' career is going to be this. I think there are going to be cycles for Patrick Mahomes, that there are going to be games where he's just in the pocket, sitting there, throwing the ball, delivering on time, wherever it might be. And there are going to be games where he's just, I'm out. I'm outside of there's a clean pocket, but I'm gone. All right, 1, 2, 3, I've got to escape and do something else and create. Now, some of that is coaching. It's like, read 1, read 2, hitch, out. I got to go because I'm probably going to get pressured here, and that's the way it's drilled into some of the quarterbacks. But there are some clean pockets that are there for Patrick Mahomes. I think he's going to be 42 years old as a quarterback and leaving some clean pockets. And then he'll have some games or drives where he's just sitting there and, as a conductor and just spreading the ball around, and it's all good. It's just a give and the take with Patrick Mahomes. And if you're an offensive lineman for Patrick Mahomes, here's the good news. You get to protect Patrick Mahomes. Bad news is sometimes you might get a holding penalty because he escapes the pocket and you've got your hands a little bit too far out, and that guy starts to run away from you, and you've still got him, and the referee sees it. Price of doing business.
Can you tell Patrick to just start yelling whenever he leaves the pocket? I'm going! Right!
On your right!
Right, left! Oh,
on your left!
My left. Yeah, no, my left is your left, so...
On your left! Left! Yeah, he should do that more often. That would be smarter.
I guess so.
Why didn't he do that?
Well, you don't want to add any more to his plate.
He's taking care of every single detail. He hasn't thought of this yet,
I still go back to, I just marvel at, Patrick Mahomes finally has a great defense and a great offensive line when it comes to pass protection. And it's not a bad season. He's enduring this season. As far as the bar that he set, it hasn't been a great season. It reminds me of 2 years ago, right? It's like, and so many great quarterbacks, I've learned this because I chase stats in fantasy football. They alternate years. Like Peyton Manning would have a great 2010, a little bit down 11. Back in 12, down 13, back in 14, back and forth, right? And I feel like that's just kind of like the chess match that is involved when you're the best quarterback on the planet and you have 31 other teams spending their entire offseason trying to figure you out. And they're going to get you for a while, and then you're going to get them back. And then I'm going to draft Mahomes after like the 2022 season. He's going to have a down 23 season. Now I'm going to draft him 24. He's going to throw 50 touchdowns. And back and forth. So I think it's just all part of the ebb and flow, and it's just a great thing for Chiefs fans that we're just trying to figure out what's wrong with the quarterback of the 7-2 team who's got close to the most touchdown passes in the NFL and was probably one big game away from being the MVP favorite yet again.
Yeah, it is an issue. It's an absolute issue that he's one of the leading candidates for the NFL MVP. And he is struggling the way that he's struggling. He's just got to get his bleep together. Yeah. Just
not that the
dude.
Chiefs are above reproach, right? That they're above criticism. That Mahomes can't get better inside a season throughout his career. I think they would be the first to tell you that. Okay, yeah, absolutely, we're going to nitpick at this thing because that's the sign of a great team. That's what great teams do. they don't get satisfied. They don't rest on their laurels of one great season or one great stretch. They continue to improve.
Well, and we're comparing Patrick Mahomes to years past Patrick Mahomes, not comparing Patrick Mahomes to today's offense.
Like Loki, we're comparing him to other multiverse Patrick Mahomes. Oh, just in time, you're back in here.
Take your word for it on that one.
Nerd talk.
Take your word for it on that one. But
I haven't seen season 2 yet, so.
Well, he's doing the same thing as
I
season
kind of
1,
figured,
right?
yeah.
You guys probably know this, but I'll still ask. Do you know how many touchdowns away Patrick Mahomes is from leading the league in touchdown passes right now? In a year where we're going, Patrick Mahomes has sort of struggled, and the offense is pretty stagnant.
I want to say like 2 or 3.
I was going to say 4.
He's 2 away.
Yeah.
Wow.
Is
behind
it
Tua.
Josh? Oh, it's Tua, yeah.
Tua away. Tua and Allen are tied at 19. Patrick Mahomes has 17. So that's sort of my point of we're comparing Patrick Mahomes to years past Patrick Mahomes, not Patrick Mahomes to what the offenses are doing this year. We've talked about offenses are down, defenses are better. Offensive this year, the scoring are down, points are down. Yeah, but why is Mahomes struggling? Why isn't he doing the things that he's been doing in the past? Well, comparatively speaking to the rest of the league, he's doing some of those, same things that we've seen in the past. He's 2 touchdown passes away from.
He's one big game away because nobody's grabbing this by the horns.
Not at all.
Especially in the quarterback position.
No. I mean, honestly, C.J. Stroud should be getting more love than
On
he is
Monday
right
Night Football, if he goes for 4 tutties and 300 yards, he's back to being the guy.
Yep. I haven't even seen what the
and if they're 8-2 at that point,
the numbers are today. Earlier this week, it was like a 2 or 3 way tie for the best odds, and then C.J. Stroud was like in 4th with the 4th best odds at DraftKings. So here we go. MVP. Let's change now. Hurts is plus 280. Lamar Jackson plus 300 with Patrick Mahomes plus 300. Tua's
right.
plus 550. McCaffrey's plus 1,800. Brock Purdy plus 2,000. C.J. Stroud plus 2,500.
3-man race right now.
It is, yeah, absolutely. And Tua,
Got half the season to go.
Got 8 games to play there, so he could certainly get back in it if they win some games against some good teams, and if he plays well against good teams in that stretch. But yeah, you're right. Monday nights, you got the leader at DraftKings at plus 280 for Jalen Hurts, and then the second place with Patrick Mahomes at plus 380 or plus 300 playing on Monday night. Mahomes goes out there and plays a typical Mahomes game,
he's
or
had
reputational
great numbers against the Eagles in his 2 games he's played against.
Yeah, reputational Mahomes game. Then he catapults into first place maybe by a decent margin, because then he'll go and play the Raiders on what will be the I think that's the game of the week. A week from Sunday will be the 3:25 in Vegas, Chiefs and Raiders, CBS. I think that's the NFL game of the week. One of those Nance Romos for that, and then he'll have Sunday night football against the Packers. So
they ever going to play at a normal time again? Cool.
If they play a playoff game at noon. They'll play a Monday noon game.
Yeah.
They'll play a nooner on a Monday called Christmas.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
America.
There's your
NFL.
There's your Christmas present.
Break. Just
a regular old noon
Give me
game.
Heat and Celtics on Christmas Day. I don't need NFL.
I know everybody hates their
On
families, but don't make us work during it.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, but now you have an excuse.
I don't want an excuse.
Oh.
Hey,
I would rather
congratulations, Chiefs. You won another Super Bowl. Here's what we're going to do for you, okay? Get ready. We're going to make you play on Christmas.
Yes, open up this Christmas present. It's a game. What do we have for him, Johnny? That's right. It's a football game. After winning the Super Bowl and playing so well, you get to put your family second to your career. As they say, the only people that remember that you worked late are your kids.
Hey, you can spend time with your kids on New Year's Eve. Never mind.
Yep. Why isn't Daddy here? He's playing football. I hate that game. Well, that's why you get everything for Christmas. All those little toys you got, that's because of football. I don't want them. I'm just joking. He can go play football. It's fine. I'll just play him on Xbox.
And everybody's going to watch those. How many games are on Christmas? Is it 2 or 3?
Yeah, it's 2 or 3.
I think it's a 3. I think it's a triple
They're
header.
gonna have huge numbers, and then be like, we'll do this every year, even next year when it's on a Tuesday.
And the NBA is going to go.
No, I didn't even think about that.
Listen, folks. All right, this is our day.
Yes.
Okay, we make our players play on Christmas. You guys didn't have to do
The
that.
NFL does that for Thanksgiving. They already
first,
did it.
Like scheduled
And they got Black
Tuesday,
Friday now.
Yes.
The first scheduled Tuesday and Wednesday games are coming up, I guarantee, on Christmas next couple of years.
You're so right.
But are we messing it up though? There's a leap year coming up, so
Oh,
that'll throw it
Wednesday.
different,
Oh,
right?
wow.
Okay, I'm going
yeah.
to start swiping through my calendar.
Leap days always.
I've
get
known
me,
a couple
man.
guys that you can tell them any date in history, and they can tell you like that was on Wednesday.
What?
Yeah,
it's a mathematical. It's an algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
There are some people who have just like incredibly. There was someone recently have incredible memories that they not only do they know what day of the week it was, they know like everything they did that day, and that seems like an insane way to live your life.
Yeah.
Next week Christmas is on next year. Christmas is on Wednesday.
So it is a leap year. Okay, we're leaping Tuesday. My aunt can remember everybody's birthday. If somebody that we may not have mentioned for 20 years, like, hey, you remember my girlfriend in high school? When's her birthday? She's like, oh yeah, there was this. Like,
I know people that
one of those people.
They memorize eye color. They know everybody, like just complete strangers.
What?
I bet Max Scherzer really messes them up.
I bet so.
Max Scherzer,
I don't even know my own eye color.
I also don't.
Yeah.
I have to ask if I'm like making like a little video game character or something.
Hazel.
It's purple.
I don't even know what color hazel is. I just always say that's my driver's license. Yeah, I'm a hazel. We'll just go with that.
Christmas 2025 is on a Thursday, so we'll get Thursday night football. So Christmas night football, we're good
look
there.
Forward to that for Chiefs will be that Thursday night football season.
December 2026.
18 game schedule by then.
December 2026, definitely an 18 game schedule. It's a Friday, so we're back to regular sort of day of the week progression, and we will get Friday night football in addition to the Black Friday.
Dolphins Jets are Black Friday a week from today, 2:00 on Amazon.
Oh, 2:00.
Do you think they'll play on Saturday on Christmas in 2027?
Yes, they will.
Yeah, they do.
They're going to give the NBA every other year to have Christmas.
I'm going to ask Lebo if I
can. You can have Christmas at your house, NBA.
I'm going to ask Lebo if I can have
next
off
year
for December 2028. It's a Monday. I just don't really want to do that show.
As you should. As you should. All right, so the Sunflower Showdown coming up tomorrow. I heard Stan Weber this morning, and I don't know if this is like Stan's feeling about it, or if Stan is presenting the general feel around the K-State football team. But boy, he was really dry in his sarcasm and sort of shade isn't the right word. I'm trying to think of the way to describe it. Essentially, I'll paraphrase. He was talking about the game going, well, Kansas, they're just so fired up for K-State. I'm not sure K-State's going to have a chance in this game, the way they're playing. And Sean Snyder's there now talking about how big this game is, and they've got the secret weapon with Sean Snyder, and, it's in Lawrence, and I just heard how, the streak is over, and a lot of years now I've heard that, but the streak is going to be over there in Lawrence now. I'm not sure what they're going to do. I don't even know what way to describe that sort of passive-aggressive sort of feel. But I don't know if that's his feeling just from people around him that he's talking to, and he himself is sort of getting annoyed at that, or if that's the feeling he's getting from K-State as in like, hey, are we the underdogs here? Oh, okay. So
they're not.
This
not
is
even close.
Not even close. But if that's the way that it's being presented, like, oh, they got Sean Snyder over there. Oh, they got this. Oh, they got that. Yeah. Oh,
to
by the
their
way,
team that
you
way.
guys are being disrespected as 9-point favorites.
Listen,
you guys are being viewed that way.
In that span of like 10 years, right, when KU won like 10 games, right, I guarantee you in all of those matchups, they found some tweet by some rando that said, oh, this is the year KU's going to beat K-State. Are you seeing what they're saying about us? And that happens in every locker room everywhere, I guarantee you. Especially, it's and it has to, I would imagine, when you've won 14 straight in the series, and I think there have only been 2 of those games have been one-score games.
And that was my next point is that, it's obvious that this is not one to where they go, oh, this team sucks, so we can just go in there and just...
Yeah, they should have K-State's attention, absolutely.
Yeah.
And this year's KU squad.
But, even in years past, as you say, only 2 of those were one-score games, where even in years past, K-State shows up to the game where they are the heavy favorites, and they play like it. They play like they're the heavy favorites and just simply want to bury a team, not the, we're going to beat them, they're not that good, rivalry this, rivalry that. No, they've typically shown up as in like, yeah, we may be the favorites. We don't care. We're going to whip your butt and we're going to bury you because that's what we're supposed to do in a rivalry game.
And that was set forth by Bill Snyder. I maintain to this day, whenever he arrived in 1989 in Manhattan, his to-do list, 2 was Power Cat logo, 3 was wear the same vest or like the windbreaker to every game. But number 1 on that list was make sure you beat KU every year because they were both at the bottom of the barrel. Right?
Yep.
And he was like, we're going to climb this ladder faster.
State champs,
we're going to get there. Number 1.
Every year.
Every year.
Yep.
And that's what he did.
Yeah.
Did he lose to them? Maybe a couple times.
He had 2 of it.
Ron Prince did. And that made Ron Prince's stay short.
Yeah. But the interesting backdrop of this is the Sean Snyder story that came out, over the summer. And it's like, wow, this is it's really interesting. It's not a name that you would expect to see in Lawrence. And this week being to where Sean Snyder's on the Coaches Show on Wednesday. I'm driving little man to practice, and I'm listening to the Coaches Show and Brian Haney, and he's talking about
So weird.
Kobe Bryant's going to be one of our guests here as well, and Sean Snyder, we'll talk with him later on in the show. And I'm like, wow, they are. And Sean Snyder's, I guess tonight's going to give a big speech and talk to the KU football team about the rivalry. Like, I mean, it's fully embraced, and I think that's part of, like, from Manhattan and Wildcats are like, you know what, bleep you. Okay, you're gonna try to parade around Sean Snyder as sort of, the mascot, and I don't think he's thinking that that's the case. But I could see where, from K-State's perspective, or K-State fans, it's like, oh, you're just using Sean Snyder as sort of the mascot, as in, like, rubbing it. This is what it's about to beat K-State. It's like, yeah, he got that a lot from being a state champ from his dad when it was state champs every single year, no matter what. That there's a clear, whether it's under the skin or annoyance or just want to shut you up, coming from the team in Manhattan.
Yeah. No, I can see that, absolutely. It's funny, in Lawrence right now, they have Sean Snyder and Parker Brown. Come on in, the old enemies.
Everybody's welcome.
Everybody's welcome.
Everybody's welcome.
But yeah, I mean, there hasn't been too much crossover at all in that rivalry, as far as a guy that played at KU coaching at K-State or vice versa. And that's usually what makes rivalries. I'd almost forgotten that Sean Snyder was over there. Like, yeah, special teams.
Yeah, you forget it until this week. And
And,
it's like,
what
oh,
a weird,
that's right.
what a weird week in season it continues to be for KU to have your quarterback announce that he's coming back
next year
with like 3 games left to this season, but it's next year is when I'm coming back.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. And it shows video of him working out really hard and looking really healthy. Maybe that was taken, I don't know, in the summer or earlier before the injury, but what a weird time.
I'll tell you this, when that video started and I started watching the video, I thought, holy bleep, Jalen Daniels is starting against Kansas State this weekend.
Right?
I really thought that was like, you guys thought it was over. You guys saying this? No, and then it's going to show him in a uniform against K-State, 6 o'clock. Let's get back to it or something like that. No, I'm coming back next year. Oh, thank you, Hansborough. Like Tebow up there. Oh, by the way, one more thing. Let's do it again next year, huh? Let's do this. As we're not even to Thanksgiving yet, but I will be back next year. But there was a lot of the he's
transferring. He doesn't want to play,
and he may still.
Well, definitely redshirt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what I had said like a month ago. Like, just let Jason Bean be the quarterback and redshirt Jalen Daniels. And certainly seems like that was what was happening behind the scenes. And we'll find out who's going to take the snap first tomorrow, 6 o'clock there in Lawrence for KU. It's expected to be Ballard.
Bean. Oh, really? Bean's surprised.
I shouldn't say expected to be Ballard. If it's not Bean, expected to be Ballard is what I should say. But yeah,
Mikey Pauley.
Mikey
Get that helmet.
Pauley's
Come on,
up
man.
next.
Let's go.
Come on. Nothing against Cole Ballard or Chris or any or Ballard that's out there anywhere. The entire Ballard family. But I mean, if we get a little taste of Mikey Pauley in the game,
I
little
guarantee
flavor
you,
there.
Of all the quarterbacks in that game, nobody has had a better sports career, at least in high school, than Mikey Pauley. He was all-everything baseball, went to Nebraska, played baseball, won the Simone Award for football. He's dunking for Blue Valley Northwest, winning state championships with the Browns, right?
Hell of a bowler.
I'm sure he was a great bowler.
Mm-hmm.
Ping pong. He played with both.
It's ridiculous,
both hands.
dude.
Yeah.
I saw him play ping pong one time, and it was annoying just watching it. How good he was. It's like, come on, you can't be great at everything.
And he makes
Archery.
great sub sandwiches. We're like, hey, Mikey, hey, Mikey Pauley with your sub sandwiches.
The archery, winning that
Yes.
one. Skeet shooting, like, what's the point? It's like he's really good, and we'll see if he's out there. But yeah, I hope it's Jason Bean.
Yeah, I think it'll.
I hope it's Jason Bean. I hope it's a healthy Jason Bean. Maybe it's a head and a knee. This is weird to say. You guys are going to cut this and use it against me, but I don't care.
Here we go.
Here we go.
You gonna say wiener?
No.
Oh, I said it.
I hope it's just a head injury. Isn't that a weird thing to say about football? That it's not a knee injury too.
Sure, yeah.
That if it's a head injury,
I hope it's one injury, not two.
yes. As if it's
Said
a
it
head
that
injury,
way.
he's going through concussion protocol, and if he's cleared, okay, he's not going to be hampered by. Also, he's limping while he's out there trying to play and make some things happen against a pretty damn
Pretty
good.
low for a Mizzou guy to be rooting for injuries, Jason, but if that's the kind of show you want to do.
Quite literally the exact opposite of what I did. Josh,
No.
Tyler, Margot.
I'll be cheering for both quarterbacks in this game. They're both both for a long time. The other people, whether it's coaches or fans, have been wanting them not to be the starter, right? For years, for both of these guys. And they have stuck through it, and they have had really good seasons so far. With Howard, it's 2 great seasons he's had. And so I'm cheering for both quarterbacks. I love the battle through adversity and staying put in your not transferring out and being right there and sticking through it. So I admire both of them for that.
It's an odd theme of all 3 of the local teams. Of the quarterbacks that have been awesome this year have been guys that people have at times wanted to not be the quarterback.
Yeah, a lot of people
wanted them
not to be the quarterback.
It's a terrible lesson.
It's not that special. Think about how many times people have not wanted Mick Schaefer to be on their television.
And I just pushed through it.
Adversity.
I'm the Will Howard of TV.
I've always said that Josh is in here continually cooking.
That's right. I do what I can.
And I'm Jason Bean.
You are.
So
making chili.
That's right.
B. Anderson.
Jason B. Anderson. That's right. All right. What happens tomorrow in the game? We'll go around the room / control room. K-State, 9-point favorites. The line has moved 2 points on the total, 55.5 up to 57.5.
It's moved, wasn't it 7 to open up the
I had
spread?
it on Monday when I put the format together. So the first time I look at it is Monday morning when I'm putting the format together, and then I keep track all week. It was 8 on Monday, and it's moved to 9 is the only movement I've seen. So, Mick, you want to start? Dylan, you want to start? Josh, you want to start?
I'll
Me?
start.
Okay, Mick, go ahead.
It seems like the line seems a bit much, but I've learned since September 1st of last year that when it seems like it's going the wrong way, ride that train. So I'm going to say K-State by 10 in this one.
KSU covers. Dylan?
KU money line.
Yeah,
there you go.
That a kid. KU wins. Josh?
K-State, given the points, I found an alternate. I mean, I didn't find this on DraftKings. Made an alternate line earlier in the week just to get it to 10. I think that's good. I wouldn't surprise me if it's a couple touchdowns. That's where I'm at. Sorry, KU people.
I've gone back and forth on this week. That I started the week saying K-State's going to win by multiple scores, and as the week has gone along, I mean, Lance Leipold is a really good coach. So is Chris Kleiman, obviously. If Jason Bean plays, and if the defense might have figured something out last week in slowing down the running game of Texas Tech, which is a big part of what they do, and it was non-existent in the second half, then if that carries over, it can be a closer game. I think it being in Lawrence, and I think the confidence that some of these KU players are playing with, even in a loss to Texas Tech, especially on the defensive side, I've landed on it being a closer game. K-State wins, but I think it's going to be a one-possession game. So I'm going to take
3 kind of different picks here.
KU plus the points.
Jason's pick, Dylan's pick, and then we have the right pick.
We have the right pick,
Correct
yeah, with
pick.
2 of us.
Yeah.
Which coach do you think is going to have the best day? Kleiman, Klein, Klanderman, or Kotelnicki?
Yes.
I agree.
I heard somebody earlier this week.
Leipold.
The question that was
special
asked,
K day.
I think it was on the Border Patrol, was asked earlier this week, and it's such a great. I think it was asked to Nate and Shane. It says, you win this weekend, but your coach takes the A&M job. Are you rooting for your team to beat the rival?
No way.
Or lose, but you keep your coach? And it's like, I don't know. Of course, I would root if I'm, KU or K-State. I'd root for my team to lose if it meant that in that specific scenario,
I'm thinking long haul, I think.
that my coach stays, because also that would mean that coach leaves. So it would mean that's a Pyrrhic victory right there.
That really is. I learned about that last night.
Pyrrhic victory. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We will
do a segment. It'll be quick.
We'll give some reports about Carissa Thompson. We may weigh in on that a little bit. Everybody else has weighed in on it. It's kind of saturated, but we'll give our thoughts on that. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back and cuts before the show is over. More Zone next. But continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels, Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41 Sports Director. There wasn't much basketball played during the day yesterday, but there was a lot of dunking going on. Carissa Thompson was reporting on all the basketball games that were being played in the middle of the day yesterday. But that was the case with Carissa Thompson, who talked about on a podcast of some sideline reporting liberties. At some point, liberties. She was on a podcast with Aaron Andrews like a year ago, and had mentioned that maybe there's some filling in the blank of some sideline reports with some coaches that may or may not talk to her. And she's got to do her job, and she's got to present a report, and there are expectations from the producers and the network, and we need this report. So, you didn't talk to them? Well, you should have done your job, whatever. That's whether you agree or disagree. It's different than just the qualifier that was taken off on the podcast earlier this week when it was just flat out make some things up, just create the report at halftime of, and I get it, like she's not creating a report that this person's having knee surgery at halftime, but coach, this team needs to get off the field on third down. Like these drives are extended and stop turning the ball over and just be more efficient during the game, guys. Like. That not as terrible because there's no actual report. That's just a fake report. It's just presenting commentary through the prism of a report. But it ain't great, and there's no reason to admit that you would ever do that because it does cut off at the knees a lot of other sideline reporters that are presenting factual things that they're talking about.
Maybe it does. It's more just for me like an idiotic move, right? I mean, first of all, I hate Twitter. I hate people, and I hate the people on Twitter. That's a big one too. They sometimes make me defend people I don't want to defend, or like just kind of push back in a whole situation. First of all, what are you doing, Carissa Thompson? Doing that first of all, but then admitting it, right? Well, you don't admit in that profession of all the professions. I mean, nobody cares if LeBron lies all the time, right? It's whatever. Right. Yeah, really? Did you see Led Zeppelin first? You saw that band first, even though they were like 2 decades before you were born? Whatever. So, but I mean, in that profession, we banished Brian Williams to like Nome, Alaska.
That's true.
Nobody saw him after that to make him that. Right? Yeah. Mitch, have we heard from Mitch Albom since he just started like I'm just reporting on games I wasn't even at, right? That's the biggest no-no. You can just be a colossal boob in the business, right? We've proven that 3 times over in here.
Several
but you don't do that. That's the biggest thing. And to roll the dice on what was a great gig she has now for her career, and I believe she will be punished and should be punished and all that. So what are you doing, first of all? But then yesterday was just really insufferable with all the other sideline reporters, and rightfully so, saying don't do this. But then Lisa Salters was appalled. I mean, really, you were appalled, really, by that? She attributed a couple of cliches to a coach at halftime, and all the others were like, this undermines the integrity of our career. I'm like, you're a sideline. It's a sideline report. I've done it. It sucks at times, but it's not that hard. And you're just asking these big football players how they feel during their football game, right? You're not in India. You're not Mother Teresa. You're not feeding the hungry, okay? It's just sports, right? And so she did a no-no. But the sanctimonious responses to all that yesterday just making me kind of push back now. I'm like, okay, yes, get off the cross, right? Okay, she did a dumb thing, and she shouldn't do that, but I don't think it affects everybody else. I mean,
because we're all like
the whole world isn't hanging in the balance on your halftime report.
Well, a couple of things. We live in the sandbox of life covering sports.
Oh, hey, we do have breaking news. Ian Rappaport just tweeted that Joe Burrow is out for the year with a torn ligament, according to Zach Taylor.
Crap.
Is that an MRI this morning? Jake Browning finished last night as his backup. I am on Rappaport. I clicked to go to his actual page.
Carissa Thompson?
4.2 million followers and all of that. Ian Rappaport says Joe Burrow is out for the year.
Holy bleep. Well, that is a horse of a different color.
And really, Zach Taylor says he's out for the year. Everybody has that now.
So somebody actually talked to Zach Taylor? Or Zach Taylor finally talked to somebody about Joe Burrow?
Yes.
That is massive. That changes the complexion of a lot of things in the AFC, and
You don't think they're changed already? Do you think they were going to rally?
I don't, but
5-5.
They're 5-5. Yeah. I don't, but before the Texans game, they were starting to play some pretty good football.
Man, I get it. I mean, that's the kryptonite, right? For Mahomes, for this team.
And I've said it before, whether I like the Bengals or don't like the Bengals, I like the NFL, and the NFL is more fun when their best players are playing. Sure. And Joe Burrow is a freaking phenomenal player. And the reason I don't like Joe Burrow and the Bengals is because he's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he'll stick the knife in your back, and he'll tell you about it. And there's something to like and respect about that, and it just sucks. I want to play a season and watch an NFL season when they turn injuries off. Just turn injuries off one time. See what happens.
No, trust me, they're getting there. Was it a hip drop tackle?
It was.
That took his hand out?
Outlawed. Mark Andrews was a hip drop tackle that took his ankle out. Hey,
that's a made-up thing, by the way.
No, they dropped their hip.
Whose hip? Is it the tackler or the
you
guy
guys talk
getting
about
tackled?
this in the break.
Hey, are you going to raise the roof?
Okay.
I'd love to. I'm not going to raise the roof, but I think someone's going to. And I'm going to the AFC North. Here's my pick. I got an underdog on the road for you.
Okay.
If the Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Cleveland Browns, they will be in sole possession of second place in the AFC North. As the Bengals fall off, they would get 2 games over Cleveland. So I think these absolutely untenable Pittsburgh Steelers are going to raise the roof. And Raise the Roof is brought to you by Shamrock Roofing and Construction, Kansas City's local residential and commercial roofing contractors. One call does it all.
And by the way, the AFC North in the last 4 days, 2 starting quarterbacks out for the year.
Oh, the
Both
Cincinnati
Deshaun Watson
Bengals
and Joe Burrow.
themselves reported that.
Yes, it's out now. Zach Taylor said it.
I got it from Chris. Monday. That's appropriate. Let's get into the cuts before the week of shows.
Did you say Chiefs-Vikings?
Chiefs-Eagles,
Did he say Chiefs-Vikings? Mark that. I'll look for next week.
Go ahead and mark
by the
that.
end of the cuts. Can we turn it around that quickly?
I actually think the Chiefs are going to beat the Vikings, and Justin Jefferson may not play the second half. I'm not sure. All right, let's get into the cuts here. Whatever happened this week. Dylan, go ahead.
I'll be honest. I don't think the Texas A&M job is better than Oregon's. It's just not.
Marco says Oregon has some pretty good facilities.
Jerseys, a lot of jerseys.
Or the best.
Yeah, they got that Nike money. Right.
You'll never play nude.
There's nothing.
Oregon will never play nude. That's true. I got a lot of...
Very true.
Never. As opposed to others.
And still have leeway because you threw the ball 30,
Yeah, because
40
the
yards
safety's not
downfield?
flying up. Come on, man.
Oh, well, that's just
You almost got me cussing on here, buddy.
That's a bad
Go
take.
ahead.
I mean, what the f***?
Wow. A lot of faith in
We
Marco.
just
went 0 to 60.
You guys got to put
Hey, we woke him up.
Hey, everybody.
We woke him up. Garrett's
Welcome
here.
back to the show.
I'm pissed off.
So
He
was
really
that
was.
on over the air? Or
Yeah.
was that on Steven's little
No, that was
cussy show he's got on YouTube.
No, that was Hot Mic. That was also just on the
Right,
radio.
okay.
Hot Mic. It was dumped, but that's those that were listening on the stream. That's what they heard. Well, they didn't
Actually,
hear the bleep.
it's not what they heard. They didn't hear the bleep.
They did not hear the bleep. They heard the whole kit and caboodle go. And there's a lot of heads you can rub. And Lebo's gives us the most luck.
Okay.
It's true. Yeah. We call them like you see them.
Droopy speaks for me.
That's right.
And then
Yes.
I blame it on Droopy.
A lot of things have been blamed on.
We have ads for that.
We do have ads for that. Might be some low T there.
If you got a droopy dog.
I also told Josh I haven't been cut yet, so there we go.
Wow, there's hey Dylan.
And there I just did it again.
There it is.
Oh, the
Go
irony.
ahead and mark yourself, Dylan. He was just telling me he hadn't been cut yet. Wow.
That's the terminology we call it. You got cut.
Great work, Dylan.
Oh,
Bring your
there's
playbook.
Maybe a different terminology.
And then I blame it on Droopy. I also told Josh I haven't been cut yet, so there we go.
That's just there for bracket of sound when you need it.
Just a reminder.
Just there in the archives.
Reminder. Dylan offering a lot of information about his personal life.
There's only one name that I know for sure would go win a national championship at Texas A&M, and you'd have to shower with steel wool before going to church on Sunday morning every single weekend, and that's Urban Meyer.
I think both of those are true. Yeah. That would hurt. Steel wool shower.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah. Certainly.
She doesn't have bunchies.
No, there's no bunchies.
There should be though.
She doesn't have jizzies.
Whoa! Oh!
Up next,
Giselle Bundchen.
Jason.
What?
It's a family show.
Is it?
Giselle.
Yes, we know what you meant.
Factor fiction, Jason.
Oh, that's ridiculous, Josh.
It finally just occurred to you.
Stephen St. Jason.
Thank you, Mick.
Thank you, guys.
Program next.